On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're heading up the California coast to explore 4 charming cottages that feel both refreshing and familiar. First, we're in La Jolla, where a quintessential beach cottage blends ocean-inspired decor with playful patterns, creating a warm and lively home for a family of 7. Then, we head to Newport Beach, where a 425-square-foot apartment has been transformed into a cozy, Nancy Meyers-style retreat that captures the essence of coastal cottage living. Next, we're off to Laguna Beach, where charming antiques, natural textures, and a lush garden come together in this peaceful and nostalgic home. And finally, we stop by a breezy Santa Monica bungalow that reflects a creative spirit and timeless sensibility through beautifully curated design. This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Leslie. Welcome to my home in California. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Leslie Martin. I am one half of an interior design firm called M&M Interior Design, and we are sitting in my home in La Jolla, California. So this house was built in the 90s, and when we first saw it, it sort of was lacking, a bit of charm, like a typical 90s house can, but we saw the potential. It is in an area of La Jolla, California called Bird Rock, that is right on the ocean. We're actually on a cliff overlooking the ocean. So it's a beautiful spot, and it just needed some charm. So we did a lot of work to bring in a kind of a sense of history to it by adding some architectural details that I'll talk about. But what we loved about the house, aside from the location, is that it just had this incredibly happy vibe to it. And I don't know if we can, tie that back to its previous owners or what it was, but there was just like an energy about this house that sort of spoke to us right away. And what was interesting for me is that it actually is a few doors down from the house that I lived in my 20s, which was just a total coincidence. So in some way it sort of felt like coming home to me. And so now it's kind of strange to be back here with 5 children and hanging out in my old neighborhood, my old stomping ground, but it's really kind of a full circle moment. So it's great. It's rather small, I will say that, and probably not by regular standards, but when you're cramming 5 kids into the house, it does feel rather small. But the great thing about being in Southern California is that we live outside 90% of the time. So we eat our meals outside, the kids are outside constantly, and so we can sort of make a smaller house work for our family. And again, we can't beat this location. Waking up to the sounds of the ocean is just priceless, and I would live in a shoebox if it meant that I could wake up to that view every morning. So this is our foyer. It opens up to really a big great room in the house. It's the kitchen, it's the living, it's the dining, it's all sort of one large connected space. but it was really important that I gave it a moment that sort of makes it feel like an entryway. So great way to do that is a table that's sort of your catch-all. This is a great piece. When we lived in Chicago, we were lucky enough to live in the original Playboy mansion, and when we bought the condo, we asked the previous owner if we could have some of her antiques, thinking there was no way she was going to say yes to that, but she actually did, and this is one of those pieces. So I love that it's got a lot of history to it. What is hiding behind this is a jib door that opens up, and it's all my storage for all of my china. It's a small house, so we needed to steal storage space wherever we could, so we would utilize that space under the stairs to store all of that stuff, which is great. This shell lamp is one of my favorite things. I have a total obsession with all things shell encrusted. I don't know where it came from, but it's very strange. There's lots of things that have shells on them in this house, which is perfect because we're by the sea. So I found this at an antique store and just fell in love with it, but didn't buy it when I first saw it, and ended up leaving, driving all the way home, and then couldn't stop thinking about it. So I drove 45 minutes back to the antique store to pick it up, and thank goodness it was still there. Always a good idea in an entryway, have a little box to throw things in, keys, receipts, that sort of thing. This little ottoman, I love. It was a country club that was having like a big renovation, and so they were getting rid of a lot of their old stuff. So I got this for practically nothing, and I wanted to recover it in something fun with a block print, but I just wasn't finding the right thing. So I went downstairs to my stack of tablecloths, and I found this one. I'm like, that would be so perfect. So had my upholsterer recover the ottoman in a tablecloth, but you would never know. Always on the ready is my to-go basket. This is the soccer game grab. There's always shin guards and whatnots and water bottles in there, but why not make it cute? It's gotta work and be cute at the same time. This fixture is a huge favorite of mine. I'm a big fan of one of the original interior designers, Frances Elkin, and she did a plaster shell lamp. This is sort of just a more updated version of that, and I loved that it had the rope on it, which made it feel just slightly nautical and a little bit more casual, but I think it's perfect here in this space. The drapery by the front door was a big debate in my house. Everybody thought it was a very strange idea, but it's actually, you see it a lot like in country houses in Britain and Europe, and I think the original intent for it was more temperature control. You could kind of close off the draft, but I think it's great for what we have going on here, which is this Dutch door. With the glass front, sometimes you can feel a little exposed at night. So especially if the kids are here, they can pull that and they feel like they have a lot more privacy. And also it's a great opportunity to bring in a little bit of color and pattern, which I'm always looking for an opportunity to do that. So that works well there. And as soon as it went up, everybody stopped giving me a hard time about it because I think they love it too. The mural leading up to the staircase or up the stairwell, it was more of an issue of practicality, actually. So when we first bought the house, I had only seen the house for about 15 minutes total, and then we flew back to Hawaii and made an offer and bought the house, and I had to do all of the original renovating of the house from afar, and I didn't know the house very well. So first thing I did was just have everything painted white, which was just a good base to start with. So we had moved in, and it was, living in the house, and this whole big expansive wall was white, and I very quickly started to see little muddy handprints going up the staircase, which happens in a house with kids, and I thought, okay, that's gonna drive me nuts. So what can I put on that wall that's gonna sort of hide that kind of wear and tear? And so a mural made total sense. This mural is from a company called Ixel. They're fabulous. They're out of London. And we had this one custom sized to accommodate the double height because it goes all the way up to the second level. And it's really become such a focal piece of the house. Everybody asks about it when they come and see it. And I don't know if you can see where you are, but it's a beautiful sort of boat scene. And then there's a giant tree that arches up that will carry up to the second level. You'll see when we go up there. But it's fantastic. And the stairwell runner was a bit of a challenge. I had it made overseas, and then it came to me in like 4 different pieces, and we had to have the installer sort of puzzle piece it together. But I love the kind of graphicness of the bold stripe that we've mitered here on the corners. And super durable, 100% wool, can't do anything to it. It takes a beating. I don't know how you would define the style of this house, actually. I call it a beach cottage. It's very simple. It was almost sort of craftsman-y in its architecture. There just wasn't a lot here. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was add some detail to it. So it had just sort of builder grade trim around all the windows and doors. So I had those all ripped off, and we added some bulkier trim and some window sills. And then one of the biggest things we did was this wall to my left was just solid wall and some heavy built-ins. And so I knew I wanted to bring in more light. So we knocked those out and added some windows. We added some shiplap detail to make it feel authentic and old. And we did some stonework in the kitchen. And, you know, everything that we could do to sort of age the house in a way. But really just, if you look at it from the outside, it's really just sort of a square box. And so it was tricky to sort of add the details to make it a little bit more interesting. But if I had to define it, I'd say it's just kind of a quintessential beach cottage. That is the foyer, and that leads directly into the living room area. So when we bought the house, this room was actually pretty dark. This window and this window did not exist. They were big, heavy built-ins that housed, you know, the VCRs and all of the technology of the 90s that needed to be hidden away. So they had no light coming in from here. So immediately I said, okay, we're gonna rip those out and put in some big windows, which really just floods the light in, which is great. I love using a shutter, a double hang shutter, so we can close this and get some privacy, but still let some light in. And also I just think it's kind of a nice old fashioned look to have these small louvered shutters. I think every living room needs a little bar. So this is a bar cart we've had for many, many years. Mostly it's bourbon. We're big bourbon drinkers. And I just, you know, it's always nice when you have a bar, especially if you're about to have a party, to sort of stock it with some fresh ingredients as well. So limes and mint. And I love collecting these, I think they're English biscuit jars. They used to house cookies, but they're wood and metal, and they are super charming. I actually keep black licorice in this one. Don't tell my kids. But it's sort of my little treat when I need something sweet. So there's black licorice in that one. And yeah, they're just fun. It's a fun thing to collect because, you know, typically antique stores, wherever you go, sort of have, you know, a couple of them. Some are in good shape, some aren't, but they're just great pieces to add to a bar or, you know, stick some flowers into if you need them. The egg prints, I was looking for sort of a series of things, but everything I was finding was pretty expensive. So I found a book and just ripped the pages out of the book and had them framed, and it makes this nice little collection of art. This is Lonnie, our dog. She's a puppy, and she pretty much just sleeps all day. That's her little niche. Thanks for joining us, Lonnie. Like most interior designers, I have a total obsession with decor books. It's a problem. I stack them everywhere, but I love them. There's something about having inspiration just sort of a reach away that is comforting to me. And nothing makes me happier than when I see one of my kids flipping through it and actually enjoying the book. I love that they're feeling sort of inspired as well. So they're stacked on the table, they're stacked below the table, they're stacked all around the house. Love, love, love books. Harkening back to what I was saying about my obsession with everything shell encrusted, I even took it so far as to have the couch shell encrusted. This is a fabulous fabric from Y out of London, and if you can see, it's they're shells, which makes a really pretty pattern. But again, I like the fact that it's kind of busy because surprisingly it actually hides a lot of spots because it's got such kind of a busy pattern to it. I've had solid couches in the past, and for whatever reason you can see every little spill and nick, so slap a pattern on it, it makes it a little bit more durable. So this piece is super old. It was from the 1700s, and it has traveled probably all over the world, survived a million different things, and finally made it here. And within a week, one of my children had ripped the door right off. So, you know, things happen. Thank God there's good furniture fixers, and they were able to put the door back on. But it's convenient. It stores all of our board games and some extra liquor and just things we sort of need tucked away. There's not a lot of storage in this house, so we sort of have to take every opportunity that we can, and this serves the purpose for that. This painting I love. This is the Cuba, which was a steamship that shuttled people and shipments from San Francisco to Havana, and it actually sank outside of Santa Barbara, but everybody survived, so it's a happy story. So this painting is really old, and this is the original frame. It's a little bit beat up, but one day I'll get it fixed. But I love that it's an oil painting, but it sort of has this sort of childlike simplicity to it as well, and I love that it has a California history to it. So the fireplace was something that we did when we renovated. We added the paneling, and I wanted something just sort of almost modern, not too traditional. What was here originally was pretty traditional and wood, kind of detailed. So this just seemed a little bit sleeker to me. And it's just cast stone, super durable, and I think it makes a nice statement. And, you know, we're in Southern California. I have this fireplace going all the time. Even if I have to crank up the air conditioning to make it cold enough to have the fireplace on, I have the fireplace on. I love a fireplace, so it's nice to have it on gas. You can just flip the switch and it's on. And now I find my kids are turning it on when they get downstairs in the morning, so it's caught on. It's lovely to have a fireplace going at all times. So that takes us into our dining room. We do not have a formal dining room. We just have sort of an eat-in area. And 5 kids, they always want to have a friend over for dinner. So do the math, that's 10 kids often. And this banquette can fit 10 to 11 kids around it, which is pretty amazing. And then the adults will take a chair. But it was the perfect space saver for a small space like this. The banquette really just allows tons of people to get in and get cozied up. I did it in this is not leather, this is a faux leather, which is fantastic. You can actually like put marker on it and wipe it right off. I don't know what exactly it's made of, but it is the most durable fabric ever. And it has this sort of leather grain to it, so it makes it look warm and like it's been around a little bit, but it's actually just some sort of vinyl that is super, super durable. So I would love to say that I'm the type of person that sets a beautiful tablescape all the time. That is absolutely not true. I do not. So my grandmother was one of the most glamorous people that I've ever known, and she was an excellent hostess. And my grandfather was in an entertainment business, and they lived in Los Angeles during their heyday, and I'm just sure through the most marvelous parties. And she was a big collector of silver. And so when she passed, her silver collection got passed down to her daughters and her grandchildren. So I have a few bits and pieces, not much, but what I do have is super special. And so this is one of her pieces. It's a Victorian pickle jar, which by today's entertaining standards is a little bit over the top, but every once in a while I will get it out and I will polish it up and I'll put it on a pretty table, and it just brings me so much joy to see that and remember her, and I think she would be proud. She probably wishes I polished it on a regular basis. I don't, but every once in a while when I get it out, it just makes me happy and makes me think of her. So super special, a little over the top, but fantastic. So this is a dining area. This gentleman here, his name is Phil or Randy or Brad or Chip. I don't know what his name is actually, but we all have our version of who he is. So if we have dinner guests, it's a fun game. We play with them. We ask them, who do you think he is and what's his background story? So we've had some really interesting versions of this man's past. So it can get kind of silly, but I don't know who he is. I don't know his history, but I found him in an antique store, and something about him just sort of transfixed me. And so I had to bring him home, and he has traveled with us to many a home and now sits here in our dining room to eat dinner with us every night. These sconces are from Urban Electric, a company we use all the time for lighting. They're fabulous. And then the little shades are from Foyer, just a little pleated blue lampshade. And I think that they're really sweet. I think they juxtapose things nicely. They have sort of the traditional touch with the pleated shades, but the lines of them are very modern and clean. So love those. It's such pretty lighting when the sun goes down to just have those sort of on dim and soft. Not using any overhead lighting. It makes the space feel so cozy. And I love a sconce. I love a wall light. If any opportunity to put one in, we will use one because they're just such nice ambient lighting. The bookcases. So in our previous home in Chicago, we were lucky enough to have a library that housed all of our books. My husband and I both like to collect antique books. And when we moved here, I was so sad because I had not a single shelf in the house. But what I did have was blank wall space. So I asked my contractor to build these bookcases. And I think he thought I was nuts that I was building bookcases in a dining room. But I told him, rest assured, I have a reason for the madness. And so when I opened all my boxes from the move and started putting the books in, I was so happy that I was able to put most of them in a nice, safe spot, and we get to look at them and enjoy them. And I think it makes this room feel sort of like a library/dining room. I mean, it's where the kids do their homework. It's where we do the Play-Doh. It's where we do a lot of things. So it actually kind of makes sense that there's sort of a library vibe to the space. I still have more books in storage, so maybe one day I'll have additional bookshelves to house them in. But for now, this is the best of the bunch that we've got. Lots of shell boxes. Again, I love collecting these little guys. Anything with a shell on it, I seem to be attracted to. Oh, I can see that there's candy wrappers in here from Halloween. I'll just keep that closed. That's where they've been storing them. So that is the dining room. So I own my business with my sister, my younger sister, and we joke and say that we've been working together for close to 50 years, and it's true. We used to be those kids, moving our furniture around in our bedrooms, driving my mother crazy, and we would set up little shops and interior design stores and play pretend that way. So we've always sort of been doing that together. At some point in our lives, in our 20s, my sister and I found ourselves living in Manhattan, and we both had totally separate careers. So she was doing high-end luxury real estate and a little bit of staging, and I was doing marketing and branding. And we both had our separate apartments, and we found that especially our husbands' friends would come to us and say, can you please just help us with our bachelor pads? We're totally lost. So we sort of started doing it on the side, just favors to friends, and then kind of looked at each other one day and realized, we should really be doing this for a living. So we started kind of dabbling in it then. Then life took over. She had 4 children. I had 5 children. And we both just sort of stopped working all together. But we looked at each other at some point and said, okay, we've got to get back into this just for our mental sanity. So I was pregnant with my 5th and she was pregnant with her 3rd. And we said, let's start it up again. And everybody thought we were crazy, and we probably were. But we launched the business, put up a website overnight and thought we're never going to get a client. It's just going to be a hobby. It'll be fine. And we got a call. I don't even know how they found us, but we got a call from a local show house in the Chicago area, and they said, would you want to do a room? And we thought, okay, we don't have a portfolio to speak of. We haven't been doing this more than a few weeks. What are they going to give us, like a coat closet? That would be great. So they said, no, we really want you to do the kitchen and the sitting room and the little office. And we thought, oh my goodness, we are so in over our heads, but sure, why not? So we ended up doing it, and from that point on, the business just completely took off. We've never advertised, and we've had just constant business and repeat business, and it's just kind of taken on this life of its own. So I don't know how it happened, but we're so happy that it did. It's definitely grown beyond our wildest expectations. We're still based in Chicago, so our staff and my sister are still there. And I relocated out to the West Coast a few years ago, and so now we have one employee and myself out here. So we're sort of in two cities, but our clients are all over the country, and we probably have COVID to thank for that. Everybody got very comfortable with interior design from afar. And so I've decorated houses that I've never even stepped foot in. And that's all thanks to, great technology, a good team. And so we can really just do it all remotely, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, that's where we are. So from the dining room, that leads us right into the kitchen. I'll stop here real quick. This is, I love oil paintings. The more sort of beat up the frame is, the better in my opinion. So this is from a Dutch artist, and I found it on auction. I use a site called Live Auctioneers. It's the best. You can find great deals. I highly recommend it. And then I like it juxtaposed with this Mexican redware pottery that I found. Just kind of playing with the spaces and the shapes, I think keeps things interesting. And it's totally okay that they're from completely different parts of the world and completely different time periods. When you throw them all together, kind of a mix, it seems to work. So here's our kitchen. Kitchen was by far the biggest renovation. So it's the only renovation that we did after we moved in. So we sort of had to live through it, which I now have total sympathy for my clients because it is so hard to live through a kitchen renovation when you're eating Fruit Loops out of a bowl in the garage for 6 months. It was horrible, but we got it done. So pretty much the footprint of the kitchen stayed the same. It worked just fine. I did make the island larger. I'm a big fan of styling an island. I don't like to see a completely empty island, so I made it wider so I had space to play with things. So here sits my collection of just sort of randomness. I love having silverware just kind of out and some crock pottery just for the kids to pull. I always have a candle going. I don't think that's recommended in the kitchen because the smells with the cooking, but I love this scent, so I always have it burning. I went with the honed marble. And I did that intentionally because I really like to see it wear and tear. I love the etching of it. So this is a honed, and certain times of day you can see all the spots in the cup rings and whatnot, but I actually really love that about it. Same as the unlacquered brass. I think the more wear and tear it gets, the better it ends up looking. So we used that. The backsplash I get asked about all the time because I think people think that it's really high maintenance. So it's a stone over-grouted backsplash. And my reasoning first and foremost with this was when you open the front door, you're flooded with this light and the kitchen is the first thing you see. And so I wanted to make sure that the backsplash didn't reflect all that light and kind of blind you. So I really need something that absorbed light. And this stone does a nice job of that. It pulls in the light and it doesn't bounce back at you. Second reason I chose it was, here in La Jolla, the topography is basically rocky cliffs that sit above the ocean. And I wanted this home to have a sense of history and almost like it had been found. And so the idea of using this stone sort of felt like we had uncovered this house and sort of carved the home into it. And so I thought that was a nice tie to the topography outside. So it works great. And the question I get the most is it hard to clean? And the answer is no, because I don't cook. And secondly, because when we do cook every once in a while, there's been things splattered on this, and this is grout. So you can just take rough sandpaper and actually just sort of sand out any spot that you get there. So it's actually pretty durable, which is great. Same with the plaster hood. I did that intentionally so, again, it would absorb the light and not be reflective back at you. So this is just a nice plaster hood that we did. The lights are from a company called Jam out of London that specializes in antique reproductions, and you would never know that this isn't 200 years old. The way that they age their metals is so artistic and fabulous, and they are, every detail of this is just perfect. They took, I think, a year to be made, but they were completely worth it once they arrived. I could not love them more. And at night, I am a creature of habit, and at a certain time, I will walk around and dim all the lights. I think they call it like lamp o'clock, which I'm just getting my mood lighting going. And so once the kitchen is cleaned up from dinner, I turn everything down and I leave these glowing, and it just looks like soft sort of candlelight, and it's so cozy and magical. I love that. The glass front cabinets was another area of debate because people in my family like to just sort of, put things back willy-nilly, and so it took some learning to know that everything has its place, but we're all on the same page now. And I love being able to see our everyday pieces. I just went with all white place settings, so it makes it actually really easy. But everything lives, here fully exposed and stays nice and organized. I've got my copper pots up at the top that my mother made me register for when I got married, and I never use, but I love that I have them. They're beautiful up there. And these wicker little drinking glasses that I found in an antique store are just so sweet. They're from the 50s. And anything with rattan or cane or anything natural like that, I just love. So those are fun. So this pass through into the dining room was existing. This was there. And I didn't originally love the idea of it for some reason, but it lets in a ton of light to the kitchen, which is super important. And also, it's just incredibly convenient. The kids don't have to bring their plates all the way around into the kitchen. They can just plop them up here when they're done, and then I do the dishes, or they do the dishes, depending on the night. So it's actually really convenient. And I also am a huge fan of a lamp in the kitchen. Everybody needs to do this. When the dishes are done again and you're turning things down, to have a lamp on in the kitchen at night is just inviting and warm, and it just adds a certain, hominess to a room. I think too, the way this home is laid out, because you walk in and really the first thing you see is the kitchen, it was important to make it feel more like furniture and living space than it did a kitchen. So the choices like making, having a lamp in here, making the island feel like furniture, those were intentional choices to make it feel a little less utilitarian and more inviting. How have I made this place mine or ours for our family? I love sort of collecting things. If you look around, I can tell a story about everything. It's sort of come from some part of my life. The sofa that I'm looking at right now was the first piece of furniture my husband and I bought together, 15 years ago. It's been 4 different colors. We've changed it according to where we were, but it sort of traveled with us. We lived in 9 homes since we met, and so we've just sort of collected like gypsies along the way and changed things and altered things, but they've come with us, so they all tell a story. And so there's not one defined style. Honestly, everything is just very collected and sort of thrown together, and it all works. I might have had a piece in my living room in my last house, but now it's sitting in my dining room. You just kind of have to move things around and make them work for where you are. But stylistically, again, I wanted it to be really casual. Nothing is too formal in this house. It's very small. It's really just like sort of one great room. So everything has to sort of serve multiple purposes. And again, I like traditional, but it has to be very approachable and comfortable. And I want there to be sand on the floor, and I want there to be a dog on the couch, and I want a cooking mess in the kitchen, and I love all that. So decorating with sort of a lot of stuff kind of lends itself to that sometimes, because you don't really see the mess. If it was like sleek and modern, I think every little thing out of place would really bother me. But because I've kind of gooped it up and layered everything on top of each other, all the extra life mess just kind of blends right in with it and just makes the space even happier. So I am from Southern California, but I spent a lot of time on the East Coast in Manhattan and then in Chicago. So I think my style is very traditional, but when we moved here, I knew that it needed to be a little bit less formal, super casual, and so I tried to marry those 2 styles. And also, having 5 children, it needed to take the wear and tear. So I didn't want anything to be too fussy, and really use natural materials that age well. In fact, the more they age, the better they sort of get. So I would say it's kind of a hodgepodge between casual and traditional. I like things a little bit quirky, a little bit off, a little bit imperfect. Again, I go back to things that really can take a beating. The rugs sort of have wear and tear and holes in them, but I like that. I use a lot of antiques in the house, and that's twofold. That's because I love the look of them, but also if they get a little bit dinged up, that's okay. They came that way. So the more the age, the better they get. In the kitchen, I used a honed marble intentionally. I wanted to see the etchings of the kids spilling an orange juice. I like the patina that all of those materials bring. So I really kept that in mind when decorating the house. And also too, I wanted the palette that I used to be really just sort of bright and happy. I love dark rooms and all of that, but I really, with this space, needed to keep in mind that it's sunny and hot most of the year. And so I kind of did a base of everything really light and white, and then added in colors and textures on top of that. And follow me, I'll show you some other areas in the house. So the staircase down leads to utilitarian stuff, laundry, garage, that sort of thing. But this flag I wanted to call out, don't give up the ship. It has significance to us. On my grandfather's side, we're related to Commander Oliver Perry, who was a famous naval officer. And he had this flag commissioned that says, don't give up the ship. And it became famous in a very famous military battle. And then after the battle, and it became famous, they moved the flag to the United States Naval Academy Memorial Hall. And flash forward hundreds of years, I married my husband, and I had bought this flag, and he said, what do you know about this flag? And I said, oh, it's my great-great-grandfather's, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's big history in my school because I went to the Naval Academy. So it's got this dual meaning for both of us, which is super, super special. And I just think it's such a great message for when the kids head out the door in the morning to school. Like, don't give up the ship. Like, just keep on charging. So it holds a special place in all of our hearts for that. And then my husband was in the Navy for a long time. And something that they do is they give paddles as a form of recognition. So he's got his collection of paddles down there, which is fun. And then from there, it leads us right into our den/sunroom. So come on in. So this is our den/sunroom. When we bought the house, it was an exterior space, very outdoors feeling. It was the exterior of the home siding, so we wanted to cozy it up and use it as extra sort of TV hangout space. So we added the paneling and painted it all out this great color by Faro and Ball. I can't recall the name, but I can just DM me. I'll let you know what color it is. Sort of a green taupe. And then we had this sectional from a previous home, and just by sheer luck, it actually fit perfectly. So it sits in here. And this is a frame TV, which we love. It looks like art. You can change the art, but it's really a TV. So it acts as a second TV room, family room for us. The collection of art on the wall is a complete hodgepodge of things. So recently, my sister and I did a room at the Kips Bay Show House in Dallas, and a wonderful antique store in Dallas called Wolf Hall had lent us a couple of oil paintings for the room, and I fell in love with everything that they let us borrow, so I ended up purchasing it for myself when we were done. But this nautical landscape is one of them, which is fabulous. It's very ornate. But the rest of it, it's a very much high-low. So we've got some very inexpensive art mixed with some more expensive art. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no particular theme. But if it makes me happy and it spoke to me, then I just sort of throw it up there. And like any good gallery wall, it works. It just feels eclectic and collected over time. The great thing about this room from a practical standpoint is that with the touch of a button, I can pull down 2 different types of shades. So we can completely black out the room and watch a movie, which is really fun. Or we can put another kind of shade down and just sort of diffuses the light. Also, all of these doors open up completely. So when we entertain outside, we open up the doors and watch TV or kind of have this nice indoor-outdoor flow. It's really, one of the perks of living in Southern California is that we don't have a lot of bugs or humidity, so we can really just leave these doors wide open and enjoy the space, which is great. So for the floor, I wanted a marble look without the marble price. So these are porcelain tiles in a black and a white that we had cut down to a specific size, and then I just had my floor guy lay them in a diamond pattern, which is great, completely durable, looks more high-end than it actually is. The natural seagrass rug, I love, but we just got a puppy who you met, and she has had a couple accidents in the space. So in order to cover that up, I was looking for an additional rug to go on top of that. And I found this great sort of Dury style rug in London. And I fell in love with it, but it's silk, which is also not very durable with a puppy. But, you live and you learn, and I love the way it looks. So that's that. So I'm a huge stalker of estate sales. I get like an alert if there's an estate sale in my area. And usually when you get an alert like that, they'll send you pictures of some of the listings. Most of the time I don't go because there's not much that's great. But this estate sale popped up and it had a set of 4 of these chairs. And so I rushed over and beelined through the crowd to find these. And I'm so in love that I found 4 of them. The seats were a little beat up and there was no cushion on them. But they were a steal, and I just had my workroom make a cushion for me, and voila. Now I have to do something with the other 3, but for now this one looks great in the space. Love those. This console table we've had forever. It's sort of industrial. It's metal with these bolts, but I think it's just a fun piece, super hardy. And I love my little statue guy here that I stick cactuses in. I don't have a green thumb. I kill everything for some reason, but cactuses and ZZ plants seem to survive in my house. So you'll see a lot of those throughout the home. These lights are by Urban Electric, and I don't know if it's showing up now, but they're reflective. So at night, all these little cut glass pieces reflect the light back, and it looks like a little halo of twinkle lights, and they're just really special. The pottery lamp is by a company out of Mexico, and they do really just beautiful, sort of like whitewashed pottery. So that's a pendant from them. So if you have a lot of kids, or even one kid, you know how important it is to make the pieces in your home durable and sturdy. And tip number 1, I'm a big fan of, again, antiques, because they come used. Nothing's worse than that first scratch on a new car, but if it comes to you a little beat up, you're not gonna notice an extra ding or 2. So love using antiques. Obviously, durable fabrics are a big deal. The performance fabrics that are made now are just so phenomenal. They can truly live inside and out, and things can get spilled and just cleaned right up. I'm a fan of natural fiber rugs, whether that be 100% wool or like a seagrass. They're really hardy and they're pretty easy to clean. So those are great. And again, don't make anything so fussy and so perfect that you're afraid to have somebody sit on it. Everything should be inviting. And if a pillow gets tossed on the floor and sat on, it's totally fine. So, but I would also suggest, I think people's inclination when they have children is to not invest in things because they feel like, oh, it's just going to get ruined anyway. In my experience, if you invest in a good sofa or a really, good material that may cost a little bit more, it actually wears better than something that you spent less money on. So I know it's scary to make that big investment, but you don't want to be replacing something in 6 months to a year because it got some wear and tear. A really well-made piece is going to really stand the test of time and can totally hold up. I've got a chest here in my living room that is over 200 years old, and how is it still here 200 years later? It's because it was incredibly well built. It's been shipped all over the world probably and been in a bunch of homes, and it's still here looking beautiful, and that's because it was made really well. And so don't be scared, invest in something that's gonna last. So the great thing about being in this room is that you sort of feel like you're outside, but you're inside. But the outside is equally great. So why don't you come on out and I'll show you around the backyard. So this is our backyard. It's not huge, but it does the trick. So my daughter actually had a play date the other day, and they did a painting project. So we set up the table for them, and it looks so cute, I decided to keep it out. So I think we'll enjoy it for a little bit longer. But again, being in California, we can use this all year long, and we'll probably have dinner out here tonight. You can see the kids' basketball court is also here. It kind of serves multiple functions, but we've got some roof decks and whatnot as well, so we utilize a lot of the outdoor space. So this is a new addition. So we just got the puppy Lonnie a few months ago, and the next day my sweet 9-year-old was on my computer with all of his Amazon gift cards. I said, "What are you doing, buddy?" And he said, "I'm gonna buy her a doghouse." So this doghouse came, but it was all in pieces. It was just a doghouse kit. So he worked really hard and made this all by himself. The dog has never used it, but he's very proud of it. So it sits here now, and it's just very sweet. The lanterns are all from a company called Bungalow out of New Orleans. And we've got a combination of electric ones, and we've got some gas lanterns hanging too, which is super special, especially at night when you can hear that ocean and the gas lanterns are going. It feels like you're transported somewhere else. It's pretty magical. And then we also have a sort of a grass area of the yard over here to my right, and it's where the kids play soccer. And you can't see it from here, but there's a straight shot to the ocean. So I think they're the luckiest kids alive that they get to play soccer every night and look at the ocean while they're doing it. They have no idea how lucky they are. I am not a gardener. I have no green thumb. I kill most things that I plant, but I have found that if I plant them in planters, they're somehow more manageable. So I do a lot of kind of a collection of things, and then if something dies, it's okay, I can swap it out and without killing the entire garden. So this is my attempt at planting. The rose bushes were here when we moved in, and they kind of bloom and die and bloom and die, but when they're in full bloom, this entire area is just covered in white roses, and it is so magical. It smells amazing, and it just looks divine. So that's a really special spot. So now follow me on upstairs. We'll go take a look at some of the bedrooms. So welcome to the second floor. This is where most of the bedrooms are. This is our primary bedroom. One of the better views to the ocean in the house. It gets better the higher you climb. So these are French doors that open up to the little deck, which is so lovely. I sleep with the windows open so I can hear that beautiful sound out there. I have my collection of family photos here that I love to wake up to and see every single day. And this bed has been one of those pieces, same thing as that couch. We bought it right when we got married, and it's traveled with us. And it was just from one of those big box retail stores, kind of bland, a solid colored linen. And so I knew when I got it here that I wanted to do something special. So found this great block print fabric and had it reupholstered, which really has given it a whole new life. This bone inlay table was a great find. I have friends, Patrick Wade and David DeMattai, that own a store right around the corner, which is super dangerous, and they carry the most beautiful things. So I frequent them often, and they've had this antique vintage table that was just so beautiful and fit perfectly right here. So it's sort of a desk slash nightstand. So the table lamp is red leather, vintage Italian lamp. I can't recall the designer, but I found it on First Dibs. I love it. It gives us sort of a masculine vintage energy, which I think is great. And then does it seem like overkill to have a reading lamp and a desk lamp? No, because it's hard to turn off a table lamp when you're in bed. So it's nice to have this little guy here. My husband and I will both read at night, but we sort of have a slightly different schedules. He goes to bed pretty early, so it's so nice to just be able to turn on my little reading lamp and not bother him with, lighting up the whole room. So that comes in handy. These bamboo chairs, so I would highly suggest that everyone go onto Amazon and buy themselves a set of these bamboo chairs. They're not expensive. They work in almost any room of the house. We use them as outside chairs as well. They are great extra seating if you have guests, and they're just sort of a chicer version of a folding chair, and they age really well. So the wallpaper is a seagrass or grass cloth, and I just wanted it to be in a really natural, neutral color. Almost has the look of sand or like a bleached wood. Just makes it feel really earthy and easy. And I'm a big picture hanger. Like, I love to hang pictures, but then I change my mind. And so I think grass cloth is so forgiving because you can put a million holes in grass cloth, and then when you change your mind and take a piece of art off, you can't even see the hole. So that's a little trick I like to use. This wardrobe hides all of our sheets and blankets and that sort of thing. And when we got it, it just had some, strange mesh kind of covering on it. So we popped that out and just did pleated ticking stripe fabric, which is lovely and very cost-effective way to do that. So lots of built-in storage, which is great. Obvious answer to what I love most about this home would be the location. We are literally a stone's throw from the sea, and so it's so magical to smell the ocean every day, hear it at night when we're falling asleep, see it. It's the most calming thing, and so I love that about it. But I also love, and this is it was a surprise to me with this house, because we went from 5,000 square feet in Chicago to 2-ish thousand square feet here, which is tight when you have 5 children. But I love how small and cozy it is, and how I can hear, good or bad, I can hear what the kids are doing at all times. I know where everybody is, and there is just something really special about being in such kind of confined space with one another. I don't know if I'll always be able to say that, but right now that's what I'm loving about it. It's really easy to clean when you have a small house, so I love that. And I think, we've only been here for 2.5 years, and I think in that time, we've really made this house feel like ours. We've done things to improve it. I hope that we've done things that, future families can enjoy about the house, but I think we've left our mark on it, and that feels good. This house, and any house really, is always a work in progress, right? There's always something I could make better. But I like that about it. I like that it's a project. If it was just perfect and there was nothing to be done, I'd probably get bored. So I like that it's a little quirky and it needs some fixing. I think that's the fun of it. And then from the bedroom, it leads right into my office, which I'll show you now. So welcome to my office. It's small but mighty. In Chicago, we have a nice, big, beautiful studio, but here it's just me, so I don't need much space. I also have the best views of the ocean from all windows, so that's special. It makes it a little bit hard to get work done because I'm distracted, but I get it done, I promise. Love the bamboo shelving. It holds my sample library, which is very convenient, and I love magazines, so I just stack them up here on the chair, and I can always reach for one. The sconces, again, love a sconce. Come nighttime, I turn off the other lights, I'll put the little sconces on, and it just makes this space feel really cozy and warm. These blinds, they're chic, but they're actually called chic blinds, and I ordered them at the height of COVID, and they are made in India, so they took about 11 months to get to me, but once they did, I was very excited. I love them. You'll see a lot of designers use these. They're really simple, but sort of elegant and casual at the same time. You can even get them lined, so if sunlight or privacy is an issue, you can get those, but they're just something really kind of charming about them, I think, and their kind of wonkiness. They're always a little bit crooked, but I love that. And my stacks of samples over here, and always, again, just kind of playing with collections of little prints and vintage art that I find, and it finds new homes all the time, but love this collection, and I love throwing in a convex mirror too. That makes it neat. So another collection aside from the silver that my grandparents had is they collected antique clocks. So this was one of theirs. It sadly has stopped working. I need to get that fixed, but I love this piece, and it found its perfect home sitting right here in my office. So love being reminded of them on a daily basis. So now I'll take you into one of our kids' rooms. So with 5 children, we had to double them up. So there's bunk beds in all of the kids' rooms. So this is the youngest set of kids. There's a boy and a girl in here. And I fell in love with this rustic pine bed, kind of a log cabin style bed. It's from a company out of Wisconsin that's family owned, and they're like the only people that do these authentic log cabin beds. So love this. Wasn't sure if it was going to fit, but got it here and kind of fit just perfectly. So that's great. And then my next favorite thing in this room is this wallpaper. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of like an MC Escher, like the pattern sort of plays on top of each other. It's a repeat. And it's this wonderful artist out of the UK. She's in her 90s and she still does all this block printing herself, which is phenomenal. And I was really concerned that my kids were going to use it for like a coloring book and color it in, but so far they haven't. And honestly, if they did, it wouldn't really bother me. So this is great. We have our relatives, actually some of them came over on the Mayflower, so this is an important piece to us that we talk about with the kids, and how special it is that we had ancestors that came over on the Mayflower. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually all needle pointed, which is really fun. So what gives a home a soul is hands down the people in it, right? It's the people that you love in your family. During COVID, we made a very rash decision to sell our house in Chicago and pack everything that we owned and move to Hawaii for a year. And when we did that, I was incredibly nervous because I'm a huge homebody and lover of my own space and like my things around me, and obviously love to decorate. So the thought of, you know, sort of being nomadic and moving into a home that wasn't mine with things that weren't mine was really scary to me. But it did not take long for me to realize that home is really the people. And you know, my family was there and we were happy and we were thriving. And before you know it, you know, this little beach shack that we were living in that was totally hodgepodge and, you know, was definitely not my style, but it very quickly became home. And I think looking back now and even, you know, 20, 30 years from now, my favorite memories are going to be of our time there. And so, you know, home, it's the people you surround yourself with, and that's really all you need. So the tour would not be complete without showing you the absolute best part of this entire house, which is way up here on the roof. So this is our deck where we grill. We don't hang out here as much, but this is great for when my husband's cooking. I get to sit here with a glass of wine and join him. But join me upstairs. This is where the real treat is. Come on up. So now that you've made it all the way to the top and you got your workout out for the day, this is the treat. This is where we hang out all the time. This is the roof deck, and really, honestly, the reason why we bought the house. The view is not quite 360, but almost. You can see downtown to the bay and all the way along the coast of La Jolla, which is fabulous. We get the best sunsets up here. Tomorrow is actually my birthday, so we're having people over tonight to have a margarita party, so we're all set up for that, which is fun. But this is like chill out central. If you're having a bad day, you come up here and you just take it all in, watch the surfers, and you're just instantly in a better mood. So right now there's about 5 surfers out there. There's been days when there's been about 100 surfers out there, which is really fun. I've got my binoculars on the ready so I can spy on them. We also get a lot of whale activity out there, which is great. It's a pretty special spot. So when we bought this, it's hard to believe, but the glass wasn't here, so this was all wall. So you couldn't see the view unless you were standing up, and it's the second you sat down, it disappeared. So my husband's big project was this deck, and he came up with the idea of adding the glass walls. So we're still at code here because these are considered walls, but we now have this amazing view even when we're sitting down. The word home means to me, you know, first and foremost, my family, wherever they are, is definitely home. It can be, you know, a beach shack, it could be a mansion, I don't care where it is, as long as they're there, that's home to me. I think as a designer home, it's always sort of a bit of an experiment. You know, it's really fun to try things that you wouldn't normally do for a client, and you know, always be sort of tweaking and honing your skills in your own home. So it's a bit of a project and an experiment, and I love that. But really, a home is just, it's where you feel the safest. And at the end of a long day, when your kids are scattered and you're all over the place, to be able to come home and have a casual dinner and enjoy one another is just, it fills your soul and energizes you for, you know, the rest of your week and days. And it's just a haven. Home is a haven.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to my California apartment on the water.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles.
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Sarah Horton, and we are inside my Newport Beach studio apartment. So this apartment is roughly 425 square feet. I feel like there's been some debate on social media about what to call this. Is between a studio and I would say a junior one bedroom. There is not really a ton of separation between the living room kitchen area and the bedroom. And that kind of flows out onto my deck, which I think adds a lot of square footage, but that's exterior. I actually was living in LA for about 10 years in Venice Beach, another beach community just north up the road. And it was 2020. I wanted to change, I wanted to relocate, and I was actually looking to move to Laguna Beach. And this place kind of came up unexpectedly. I had a friend whose older brother had been living here for, I think, 4 or 5 years, and he wanted to move to Costa Rica. Everybody was changing their lives. And so I got the opportunity to take a look at this place, and I thought it just had such amazing bones. I immediately fell in love with the ceilings. They had so much character, and the outdoor space is amazing. It just kind of worked out, this kind of kismet-y, lucky thing. So before I moved in, this place was definitely a kind of bachelor pad, boy surfer shack haven. There were a lot of ropes strung up on the ceiling, and there were surfboards in between the beams. And I don't want to take anything away from it. It was a great spot, but I definitely had a little something different in mind when I took a look. But again, it had great bones, so I was really excited. Welcome to the main living space. This is kind of the living room, kitchen, kind of hybrid room. And I'm gonna take you around and show you some of my favorite things. This pendant light is an antique or vintage, not exactly sure. But I love these. It's a French Empire-style crystal pendant light. I actually picked this one up from a consignment shop in Newport Beach. It's no longer there, but I love it, and I feel like it really started transforming this space into feeling a little bit more sophisticated when I first moved here. So anyway, I love this. I feel like it really anchors the room. And then we're gonna go from the living room over to the kitchen. This is my little kind of galley kitchen setup. I recently did a little renter-friendly DIY backsplash to kind of warm it up in here, give me that Nancy Meyers kitchen that I'm always aspiring to. It was super easy and I think really kind of elevated this part of the house because this was sort of a side that I didn't really love to show all that much. And I added like a little shelf up there with some of my favorite things. I've got a Turkish olive jar. I love that little mushroom print. And then this is from my aunt's store in North Carolina. It's a really cool kind of like tin, like bowl vessel thing. Okay, and then this, we're gonna go over here, is one of my favorite pieces. This pine hutch is a Facebook Marketplace find. I believe it's French, or at least it's French inspired. I don't really know where all these things come from, but I used to have a desk here when I first moved and I never really ended up sitting there. It just kind of ended up being dead space. So I was super excited when I found this on Facebook Marketplace. It had actually been at a paint store. You can still kind of see some of the little paint splashes. I did my best to kind of scrape them off, but this was housing like little liters of paint, which was crazy to me. But anyway, I got it on Facebook Marketplace. It was like $250, which is crazy. These go for thousands. I bought it sight unseen and I just had movers go pick it up and bring it here. It barely fit through the door. I'm very, very lucky and blessed that it did. But I just absolutely love this piece. I feel like it has such an old world feel and it provides me so much storage as well. Living in a small space, having a desk here was great, but having this that doubles as, you know, china cabinet space, and also I have a lot of lower storage down here. And then I'm also really big into art, and this piece in particular is really special to me. My grandmother gave it to me and she actually passed a little less than 2 years ago. So I love that I have it. It makes me think of her, and I'm really inspired by a lot of my family members and their homes, and having something from her home in here just is really special. And then I also love this one as well. This is from a California artist, Sandy Austro. But anyway, I love this one because I feel like it reminds me of a girl at the beach, and you know, that's me, a girl at the beach. So I store a lot of different things. I have extra towels down here, beach towels and bath towels because we're at the beach. And then I have extra kitchen stuff. And then you guys, these are my junk drawers. This is like anything goes in here. I'm not gonna open it for you, but it's a little crazy in there, but comes in handy. I usually keep my plates up here, but they're actually outside on the deck set for dinner. So you'll see them in a little bit. So when people ask me to describe my style, how I've decorated this place, I tend to call it sort of traditional, coastal, maximalist with sort of pops of French country and a little bit of unexpected contemporary thrown in there, which I know is kind of a mouthful, but I guess the overarching theme is this home is very personal. It's very collected. It's things that I love that are kind of from a variety of different styles that I've sort of pulled together in a way that I think looks very calming and very relaxed, but sophisticated at the same time. I definitely get compared to Nancy Meyers quite a bit on social media, and she has been a huge influence of mine. I love all of her interiors and all of her films, and I love that they feel really lived in and they reflect the characters that are living in that place. And I feel like it just tells you more about the person, and I feel like that's kind of what I've tried to do here too. Okay, now let's go check out the bar cart area. So I love this area of the house because I feel like this is very quintessential beach house. And I feel like here, I was very inspired by kind of Caribbean, India Hicks, that kind of collected, like old world, even Florida, like Palm Beach-esque vibe. It's a lot of different vibes there. But I don't remember where I originally saw this, but I love the shape of this like cane bamboo mirror, and then having the sea fans up at the top. I feel like I've seen other designers do that, or in coffee table books. I can't even remember where I saw it, but I just feel like that really brings in the element of like organic beach living. These are not from here though. I picked these up in Tulum and brought them back, packed them flat in my suitcase. I can't remember. I think that one bowl I got at the flea market, the woven bowl, and then these art pieces. This one is from the Mart Collective in Venice, which is like a cool kind of permanent flea market. And then the rest of these are just Etsy printouts. And then this bar cart I feel like it gets a lot of attention. And I also am a big thrifter, flea market person. So these silver coupe glasses are thrifted. This vessel is thrifted. I brought in this sort of ceramic-y clamshell too to sort of bring in that beachy vibe. So this to me is the quintessential beach house area of the house. So the overall vibe of this place is very kind of cozy, coastal, maximalist. I love to use different textures in here, and especially because it's so light and bright and white in here, I really wanted to use a lot of lighter tones to kind of amplify that feeling. But I like to use a lot of different textures and different prints even, like this rug kind of plays off of that. These chairs have little linen slip covers on them. I had them made. I just wanted something kind of organic feeling, and I love the shape of these tiny chairs. These chairs underneath are from HomeGoods and they're leopard print under. But I got this really nice kind of like linen blend fabric and took it to an upholsterer and had them do a French seam. And I love how these look. They're so perfectly sized for the space. And then I've got this oversized cozy couch that's in the same fabric. But overall, it's just comfortable and cozy, and it has a sophistication to it, I think, with the lighting, but overall it's really relaxed. I am a full-time content creator. I create a lot of different content here in my apartment for different brands. Prior to that, I worked in brand marketing for a really long time, and I dealt with a lot of the visual look of the brand. So I would, work on the photo shoots, social media, etc. So I kind of have brought that whole experience into what I do now. Okay, so this is my little maximalist treasure trove. I have more sea fans up top, and then a ton of books, and then a lot of personal things in here. I have photos of family. This is my mom and my great-grandmother and my grandfather and my Uncle Tom at the beach on a boat, which is perfect for here. And then a lot of these things are things I've picked up or collected. A lot of the coral I've picked up myself. And then I really love this boat painting. I got this at this place called The Barn in San Juan Capistrano. So I got it locally, and I just thought it was so beautiful. It had a horrible frame, but I popped it out, and now it's just this really nice beaded board that sits in the back, and I feel like it fits here perfectly with being out on the harbor. And I have one more thing I wanted to tell you about this. We're all about high-low in this house. So this bookcase is actually IKEA. I wanted to find something and source something vintage, but I just haven't come across anything. But I actually really love this, and it just works. The shelves are adjustable, and I feel like it's created this really nice little nook that kind of hides this part of the kitchen. And it's really nice that you can kind of have new, old, high-end, low-end, all kind of coexisting in one space. I don't really have an entryway, but I did kind of make this little gallery wall moment here. And this is another sort of high-low feature. So these two, I think, were originally from Restoration Hardware, but I ended up thrifting them. This is a Goodwill little purchase. I honestly can't remember where I got that, but then these I took from my mom, and I think they're actually nice. Sorry, Mom. The best thing about living by the beach is being in such close proximity to nature and such close proximity to the water. I find nature in general to be so grounding, and being able to walk just a few blocks and you're just surrounded by gorgeous sand and water. It's really just so calming and relaxing, and it's part of the lifestyle that I really love being down here. Okay, so now you've seen the main living space. Let's go check out the bedroom, which is right here. Okay, so the inspiration for my bedroom is still definitely coastal, cozy, traditional. But we went a little bit less maximalist in here just to make sure it was nice and calm. All white bedding, kind of mixed with like a little bit of an oatmeal. I brought in the natural rattan sconces. And then I have another one of these vintage French Empire crystal pendant lights. This one's more of a sphere shape. And you can tell they're vintage because the tops are actually still mercury glass. I love this painting above my bed. This was actually 30th birthday present from my parents. And I love that it's kind of an unexpected moment in here because everything is so traditional, and this kind of brings in a little bit of contemporary, and I think it still really kind of reflects the outside, which is very beachy, but I love that piece and it's very special to me. One of the best features of this bedroom is it goes right out to the patio. In the summer, I usually have these doors open all the time, and when it gets hot, I'll even sleep with them open sometimes just for like a nice cross breeze, but it really is amazing having such quick access to outside, and I feel like it enlarges this space so much and makes it feel so much bigger than 425 square feet. I have a lot of white linen curtains here, and especially in the bedroom, I have them covering the door that goes outside. I also have them covering the closet. I feel like it's a great renter hack to hang curtains really high. It sort of draws your eye up and it makes them look custom. And I think it gives it a really kind of cozy, sophisticated look. Okay, speaking of white linen, the white linen continues on the bedding. I'm a big layer person, so this has a lot of layers. But another thing that makes this bed look so fluffy is it's on 18-inch risers, because underneath is where I hide everything I don't want you guys to see. But mostly it's just extra clothes and things I don't use all the time, suitcases, etc. But that is also a great renter hack, is get a high bed and it's better storage underneath. So this little vignette moment is new. I got these vintage botanical plates framed, and they're custom framed to look antique. It's Italian beaded frames. And then to finish that off, I got some sconces from a consignment shop, and then I actually made these like with a glue gun. It's taffeta fabric that I got from a discount designer fabric warehouse, but they're sort of meant to look kind of organic to kind of offset how traditional the rest of this is. But this is a new addition and I love it. It kind of plays into the maximalist aesthetic that I have in here, but it's still kind of clean and calm and relaxing. Another piece that everybody asks about are these dressers. Unfortunately, they are discontinued, but another elevated IKEA find. I'm telling you, high and low can coexist and look amazing. This mirror is a French antique and this is IKEA, and it all kind of blends together in this really awesome way and looks super elevated. I feel like because this place has such amazing natural light, having everything bright and white really works in this space. I think sometimes people assume white makes everything look bigger, which I feel like if you do have a darker room that's really cramped, I think that that is a good time to use color. But in this case, this is an upper unit. There's windows all the way around, so the light in here is really amazing, and I feel like the white just kind of brightens everything up, and I think it does make it look larger. Okay, now you've seen the bedroom, so let's check out the bathroom, and this is kind of a work in progress, so you get a little peek behind the curtain of my process. So currently this is all white, but I am swatching some colors. These are a few that I'm looking at, and I'm also looking to create a shower curtain in a fabric and also possibly a sink skirt. I'm looking at a few different ones, but this one is kind of calling my name because my great-grandmother actually had this pattern in like her little sitting room off of her bedroom. It's called Hollyhock, which I love. But I did sort of a halfway reno and then quit last year, but I did pick up these sconces, which are vintage, at a consignment store, and I found this mirror that I don't think is vintage. I think it's a replica, but I really liked it, and I gotta be honest, the price was right. So she was coming home. I'm trying out these swatches kind of in different areas and looking to see at different times of day kind of what it looks like. And then this is sort of my bathroom storage cabinet. It's a pine antique as well, a little Long Beach flea market find. So more to come. As a joke, I did a little kind of TikTok, and I also put it on Instagram, Nancy Meyers characters as Thanksgiving dishes, and sort of compared each one. And I put it up Thanksgiving morning, and I tagged her in the comment. I think I said something to the effect of, you know, so thankful for Nancy Meyers and all the great entertainment and all the great films she's brought us over the years. And, you know, I thought, I just hope she sees it. But she ended up seeing it and reposting it, and it was, I couldn't believe it. I mean, she's such a hero to me. So the fact that she knows I exist is, you know, pretty amazing. Living in Newport Beach is amazing. It's a really laid back beach community, I would say. And I feel like it has a lot of the comforts of LA in the sense of from moving down from LA, there's a lot of the same restaurants, which is great, but I love it because the lifestyle is so serene and relaxing. I am outside all the time. I am walking to Lido Village to get coffee. It's really, really beautiful, and it's a great place to live. Okay, and now for the crown jewel of the apartment. This is the deck. So this has a really beautiful view of a waterway here. There's always boats coming to and fro. It's low tide right now, but I created this sort of cozy outdoor setup. These benches are built in, and sometimes this is a lounge space. This is how I would set it up for an outdoor dinner party in the summer. I kind of want it to feel coastal, but also a little bit like a French garden. So I picked up these iron chairs at a consignment store. I love these. I feel like they feel very kind of French English garden. Also lots of olive trees and lots of florals to kind of warm it up and make it feel not so stark. So I love having a little bit of lush greenery. And then my little umbrellas, which I love. So one thing you've probably noticed already from the rest of my apartment is I have flowers everywhere. One thing I love doing is flower arranging. I'm by no means a professional, but it's definitely a very relaxing kind of meditative thing that I do. So this arrangement I put a little net over the top of this little silver vessel, and then just kind of arranged different supermarket greens to create this beautiful centerpiece. My mom actually used to be a florist and a wedding planner, so I am not, but I've learned from the best. I stuck with kind of a pinky purple spring color palette, and I think the key is to space them out properly, but also don't try to be too perfect. Just kind of add where you see space. I like to squint my eyes from far away and look at the arrangement, and if it feels like it's missing something, then I'll add something. But I think sometimes people get really intimidated by doing stuff like this, but there really is no wrong way to do it. So this is a little olive tree, freshly planted for spring, and I love having olive trees out here because they love the sun, and this deck gets a lot of sun. So I do have to water these a couple times a week, but they're pretty hardy and they hold up pretty well under the really intense California sun. Even though I live in a tiny apartment, I love having this space because it allows me to do what I love, which is entertain. I love having dinner parties out here with my girlfriends in the summer. I love to throw like a little themed thing. Sometimes it's Italian, sometimes it's like a little sushi thing. Sometimes I love to just pick up wood fire pizzas and salads and just eat out here, but it really is so nice because it really extends that space and it's an entertainer's dream. So it's gonna be very hard to leave this place. I don't know if I ever will be able to, but the one thing that this place does not have is a bathtub. If it had a bathtub, I would literally never leave. I don't know how you would get me out of here, but I'm really looking forward to that in my next space. What I love most about my space is that I've really made it my own, and it's become this passion project that I continue to renovate, reimagine, and also share with other people, which has been amazing, connecting with so many people from all over. To me, home means your sanctuary, your safe place, the place you go at the end of the day to relax, unwind, and it's a place that should truly reflect you. And I think that's why I love my house so much, is it really reflects my aesthetic, my taste, and my lifestyle and personality.
Today on Homeworthy, we're touring interior designer Jamie Zahner's quaint and layered cottage by the sea in Laguna Beach, California. With an affinity for Nancy Meyers' aesthetic, Jamie designed her home to mimic that cozy and inviting feel we're all so familiar with. Her expansive garden lined with orange trees, a bed of herbs, and blooming flowers is just one of the many features that contributes to the tranquil and idyllic feel. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hey Homeworthy, my name is Jamie Zahner. Welcome to my cottage by the sea in Laguna Beach, California. So we are in the living room right now, and this is a space I really wanted to create a calm, serene area, a Nancy Meyers aesthetic, if you will, because I wanted to infuse a lot of color in different aspects of the house. So this is kind of the calmer area. So I have the seagrass and the white slip covers. I passed on a vintage tapestry in Europe a couple years ago, and I think about it all the time. So I try to bring tapestry inspired pieces anywhere I can, so that's where these pillows are. The exterior of the home is also so green, and you'll see all of the windows kind of reflect that color. So I wanted to pull that in little areas. So that's where the green comes in. My grandfather was a woodworker when I was a little girl, so this is actually a piece he made and that we've had in storage for forever, and I'm so excited that I get to have this, like a little piece of him. A lot of what I draw for an inspiration in my designs and in my home are, I want it to evoke a feeling. So this is something that, I remember him, I know there's a history there, and I love it. And we do that a lot with our clients. So this is a piece of his that I get to hold on to, that I've just loaded up with all of my books and magazines and things that I reach for inspiration all the time. You'll also see in this house there's so much from my travels that I kind of pull in as little trinkets and memories. I actually just got back from England, and this is a piece I snagged in England. I love the colors, I love the seascape, and I loved the frame. So this gets to sit on my mantle right now. I cannot commit to hanging anything on the wall. As an interior designer, I think we're always looking and creating and visualizing things. So nothing is really on the walls in this house because I change things out so often. But this is a prime location. So this got this right now. So the fun thing about a 1926 house is there's not really AC and there's not heat. So in the winter time, this has original windows on the house, so it gets so cold in here. This is Riptide's dog bed. This is actually where I sit in the winter, and I'm next to the fireplace. This is on all the time in the winter, and I absolutely love it. It creates such a cozy feeling, and it's my favorite part of the house. Actually, I'm gonna say that about everything in the house, but this is definitely a favorite. This house was a different color when I bought it. I repainted a little bit just so it felt a little bit more me. So I loved that this house had built-ins and trim and moldings and casings that a lot of homes don't. And so I wanted that to all be contrasting. So I painted this to be a little bit more neutral, and I got a place to showcase all of my books. Again, I'm always reaching for collections and inspiration, and I go through these on an annual basis. But this is kind of where everything lives and I grab for. This is actually the book I had when I was a little girl. This is the book that Riptide is named after. I always knew I would have a golden retriever that I would name Riptide, and so this is where the name came from. And I actually try to find, that book is out of print, but I try to find that and give it to friends who are having kids because it's just like a special memory for me. So this looks like a blank space right now. Again, as a designer, I can visualize what will go here. I have a custom mirror in my head that I can't quite afford yet, but that's what's gonna live on this wall one day, flanked with 2 shell sconces from England. But again, like that's what I know will live there, and I won't commit to hanging anything until I can do that. But again, it kind of just creates this peaceful area for now. So this little area kind of came to be, I found this table at an estate sale, which is where a lot of the pieces I find come from: estate sales, Facebook Marketplace, online vendors that I'll have shipped from places. But I loved the big size. We used it in the client's house. I really thought she'd keep it, but I'm so happy she didn't. So this is kind of where this lives. And then just again, I have my little trinkets, my shells, which are kind of dotted all throughout the house. I have this is from Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of my favorite movies. And then this lampshade is actually, I found at the bottom of a shop in Florence, Italy. It was 10 euros and it was a lot more to ship home, but I thought it was one of the coolest pieces I'd ever seen and so beautiful. And so I snagged it. Everybody said it was the best find of the trip, and it lives here now, and it gets to bring that character and charm and color and warmth into this space. So everything, again, I move things around all the time just kind of based on colors. I'll put different florals here and then kind of mix and match things so it looks good. I think that's just the designer in me. Everything's kind of moving around. And then again, the slip covers, just so that everything is kind of cohesive. I think in my head, I want to recover everything all the time, but I kind of love how peaceful this room feels right now. I am by no means a smoker, but I love to keep kind of quirky pieces, again, that just kind of feel unique. My grandpa made these and they were in storage for forever, and I just couldn't part with them. And I think they're just such a fun, unique feature. And I just, again, love that they come from my grandpa, and that they're a memory, and that they're just kind of these fun little things, a conversation starter, if you will. So the windows, these are all original windows for the most part, and this is my AC. So they're always open like this. Definitely in the spring, it's getting a little bit warmer today. We kind of have that May gray, June gloom, but they're always open. The Dutch door is always open, and I love listening to the birds. If you could smell right now the fragrance coming from outside and just hear the birds chirping, this is the best time of year for the garden. So I love listening to that from my couch. So when I first found this house, I immediately fell in love because it's a cute old cottage and it has a yard, which were 2 things I was looking for that I did not think I would actually find in this part of Laguna Beach. And so this was a dream in itself. The people who lived here previously had done a meticulous job of taking care of it. So when I first walked in, I said I wasn't gonna change a thing, which is a lie as an interior designer, but I really tried to keep it true to the house. So of course the windows were kind of the thing that drew me in. There's so much natural light, which is a huge thing for me. But I'll be very honest, when I walked up into the house, the first thing I noticed was the original doorbell, which is this sweet little, and I just thought that was the cutest thing. And I always say that was the thing that got me, but truthfully everything in this house had me. But that was kind of the first thing that I fell in love with. I tell people all the time to use that instead of the ring. I have the ring for security purposes, but we love to hear this doorbell. I spend most of my time in here. In the winter, again, I'm next to the fireplace, but I have a lot of friends who come over, and in the cooler months, we stay in here. The rest of the time we're outside, but this is kind of where I work from this sofa sometimes. I work from home, so I think I work in every single room, but I work from here. I like to watch TV. I cuddle up with Riptide on the sofa. I entertain on here, and I think it's just kind of the bigger room that everybody can fit in. It's not the biggest space, but it's also something that people are sitting on the floor or drinking wine or playing games. So it's been really fun to kind of see this room evolve. This is the room that I've kind of spent the most energy in redesigning. When I first found the house, I wanted to do wallpaper in this room, but because the living room was going to be so clean, I wanted a nice transition. So what I opted for was a custom mural, because the light that hits this room in the summertime, actually at this time of year, in the afternoon is so beautiful. I didn't want it to be taken away from with a busy wallpaper. So I had the mural commissioned by an amazing artist in LA, and it's all based on the things that you see outside. I have some yellow roses, which yellow is my favorite color, and there's kind of little trickles of yellow throughout the house. There are seashells, which is a big thing. It's part of my brand. It's part of just who I am and being close to the water. We have lavender, which is planted outside. We have oranges, which are reflective of the orange tree outside. I also had him draw the little birds because I became obsessed with feeding the birds outside, the little bumblebees. So all of that is kind of sprinkled into this room. And I had it done in the colors that, again, reflected the outside that I was most attracted to. So you see the oranges and the yellows and the greens. What I always say is I like a muddied down version of those colors, and so I thought he did a beautiful job capturing all of that. We also have the Mattia poppies, which are one of my favorite flowers, and that's kind of everywhere. And I just love that it's imperfect. It's not perfectly symmetrical, and it just feels a little bit, it just feels like me. And so again, it's reflective of all of the exterior and the things that we can pull from the outside in, so it kind of feels seamless. So this we call Jamie's gin joint. I am a martini drinker, and that's pretty much it. So most of this is actually filled with different types of gin. If my friends come over and they want something else, they pretty much know to bring that. But I love that we called this Jamie's gin joint, and it just, you know, is again a collection of things that I have found that I love. So we have things from, this little vase is from Provence. These were collected on travels, and then, you know, just different little trinkets, but there's little bar accoutrements as well that are just kind of found at different estate sales. But this is kind of where the fun times happen, is everybody starts here and then we end up in the living room. This piece I found, I knew exactly what I wanted, which I think is really hard because that's always something you're looking for. But I knew I needed storage in this area. I knew I wanted this space to be my bar. And I actually found this piece in Atlanta that literally fit side to side perfectly. And I found somebody who would ship it for really cheap. But this piece is like perfect for here. Everything can be stored securely in here. And we grab for it all the time. I would say every Friday at 5 is where happy hour happens. And so that's Jamie's gin joint. So the table I actually found at Round Top, and that was one of the first pieces I bought because I didn't have a table for this space and it fit perfectly. And I love kind of the vintage feel of it. I love the wood grain in it. And then these chairs I actually found at a sidewalk sale. I got 4 for $100. And what I did was I recovered them in this kind of slip-covered scallop with a pattern cushion, which I love to do. I kind of love finding different pieces and utilizing it to make it my own. So, and I have people who have tried to buy these off of me, and I always want to change things, but I really am attached to these chairs. So for now, they'll stay here. But they're very comfortable and they're very cute, and they just kind of pull this space together. I'd like to say that my favorite colors are a muddied down version of green, blue, and yellow. And so I got all of that in this fabric. This is kind of, when you look at it, this room was all white a couple of months ago. I really knew I wanted the mural, so I painted it. And what I did was I painted the built-in, which is original. I painted it a green so that it made everything pop. When it was white, everything kind of got lost in it. So when I painted it green, you could just see some of my collected cups and mugs and patterns popped a little bit more. This chandelier popped, and I love how it kind of incorporates like a dainty floral look without being too floral, and just made this whole room kind of come together. I have every intention of painting these shades. Kind of, again, I like to make things my own. I don't want it to look like it's store-bought. That's a big part of what we're trying to do at Jay-Z Interiors, and so maybe this summer I will paint those and you'll see how they look. So I love to host. I would say, again, this is kind of where we host in the winter, and it's kind of smaller and more intimate. In the summer, you'll see the outside is so beautiful that we love to host out there. This is a lot of lunches. I have a couple of clients where I'll actually pull everything out here and we'll have client meetings here, just because it's so pretty. But this is definitely a more intimate just because of the tiny space. But the kitchen is so close by that it makes it really, really easy. I also love to do just a lot of charcuterie here and wine. And again, if anybody wants a martini, this is kind of where we do it before maybe we go walk down to town or something. I don't actually start out thinking I want a lot of antiques. I think that's just how I am because I like the patina of it and I also like the quality of things. For me, I went through several iterations of how this room would look before I landed on this, and I think once I found the mural artist and saw his work and kind of what we could create together, everything kind of started coming together, from the colors. And again, when the light hits this room in the afternoon, it's so pretty, which kind of goes back to that mirror that I want in my living room, is I want it to be reflective of that. It's a tiny space, so I didn't want it to feel too overdone, which I have a tendency to do just because I like different things and trinkets. This is the cleanest I've actually seen this space. So I cleaned up for you guys, and that's kind of why it looks so beautiful. But this was the intent, to kind of pull everything in and make it feel cozy. I think that's kind of the word I would use to describe my aesthetic and our designs, is just kind of to make it feel something instead of store-bought. So the built-ins was kind of fun because once we painted it, like I said, everything got to pop against that green. So I collect a couple of I love to collect vintage glassware. These are actually, my mom got me these for my 21st birthday. They're 1950s shot glasses with the seahorses on them, which are just darling, and they've made it this far. There's other things in here that I love to showcase, is just vintage glassware. I joke that this is my hostess cup when friends come over. So there's just different pieces that make it pop and that feel unique. These are actually from the Ivy. I get I get 1 to 2 pieces for my birthday every year, which is really special. And I love that they finally kind of stand out against something. And then just, again, I move things around for what feels right. We host with these all the time. Different antique pieces, different artwork that kind of evokes that feeling of a memory. When I moved into this house, there was actually no hardware on any of this, which was so funny to me. But I found these pieces that sat in a box for about a year. They're from England, they're Devol, and they just made the whole space feel so much cuter and pulled together, and I just love the way they look, and they've aged over time. I'm gonna take us into the kitchen now. For a small kitchen, this actually has so much storage, which is huge. Again, small house, it works really well. The people who lived here before me, the husband was a chef, and so everything was kind of made from what he experienced that would help him have the best cooking experience. So this butcher block, which I love, I would never have thought that for myself, and it's now my favorite countertop. And then what I thought was really cute, I originally hated this chair here, but the wife was a martini gal, and so she would sit here and drink martinis while her husband cooked for her, and I loved that. And then, to be completely honest with you, I drink my coffee here every morning, I read here, I sometimes work from here. That chair that I didn't like at first has become my favorite spot in the house. So I do cook a lot. I love to host, and I love to try new recipes. I actually just tried something the other day that did not do very well, but I think that's part of learning. And then I bake a lot too. So this is kind of the perfect kitchen to learn from that, and especially that a chef was here. It's so nice to have the storage all panned out so that I'm able to do that. I have a beautiful orange tree in the backyard that really produced well this year, so I make orange juice fresh every day, which is such a dream, and I'm so grateful to be able to do that. But that's something that this is utilized every single morning, and then sometimes when friends come over. A lot of the time when I make food and it's just myself, I will eat at this little table here, this sweet little bistro table. There's actually a tiny TV that they put in the cupboard here. So I always thought having a TV in the kitchen was such a luxury, and I absolutely love having that little TV here. I will show you right now. But sometimes I just hole up back here, and I just think it's the sweetest little thing. And then the other thing that they were so great about with storage in here, my washer and dryer is in here, which is just, again, you wouldn't know it's there. Sometimes I really do wish I had a laundry room, but for a tiny space, they did a great job with storage. So I found this rug in Round Top, and I just fell in love with the color. I actually bought it before I even lived in this house. I guess sometimes we do that too. We hold on to things hoping that it works for ourselves or a client. And so I loved the green and florals in here. In my mind, I still think it's a little bit too big for this space, but because I'm cooking and walking here all the time, it's perfect. And then I have this rug here that's just kind of, everything is layered. And again, this kind of goes back to the greens and the blues and the yellows. I just kind of love how it livens up the space and makes it feel a little bit warmer. The pendants were actually here when I moved in, along with the window coverings, which I know are so beautiful, but again, as somebody who wants to make it my own, what I would love to do is do like some beautiful cafe curtains in here I have the fabric. It's like a sheer diamond pane, crisp white, and eventually I would love to paint this kitchen yellow, so that would kind of play off of that. And then for the lights, I really wanted to do something that's kind of like a curtain color that just drapes down, that feels a little bit bistro and just a little bit homier. But I get more compliments on these lights than you would even believe, and they're not my favorite, but they work here. So again, just kind of going on things that I find, I knew I wanted a little hat rack here and to hold all my things. So I found this piece in France. I also found this at the French flea market, and then had it framed in this beautiful frame. And I love, again, those colors. I love that it kind of gets to live here and it's connected to a memory. I think a lot of my artwork speaks to that, is just kind of connected to a memory or a place. And so I love bringing that into my home. Now we're gonna go to my office. Now we are in my office, and I'm gonna be very honest with you, this is the cleanest I have ever seen my office. It's a tiny place. I love working from home. I think it spills out into every room, but for now I know I kind of love being here. So the office was something I originally brought my old desk table my old desk, and it was so massive for this room. And I ended up finding this piece that was smaller and had a lot more storage. And I absolutely love this desk. It's so beautiful and it's perfect. I just hosted a retreat with a friend of mine in England and couldn't bring myself to get rid of the garland yet. So that's why this is up here on my hat wall. But this is kind of where I work. This is where everything happens, unless I'm on my sofa or unless I'm at the dining room table. But I actually have a 4-foot monitor that is so ugly, but it helps me be super productive, that I've hidden for you guys today. And this is kind of where I work. And I have 2 people who I work with who are virtual, who live in different places. So it's great to kind of have my space here. This is a vintage hat and coat rack that I had seen. I found this from Chateau Sonoma, and she has it all over her house, and I just loved it so much, and I bought it, and it's great. When I moved into this house, this was the only wall that it fit on, because the walls are really small here. And I kind of love that it turned out this way. I have light skin and light eyes, so the sun is not my friend, but I'm always outside being so close to the beach. I love being in the water. I love being in the garden, so I need some sort of hat. So this is kind of where the hat wall came about. I got this one last year in Telluride at a bluegrass festival, where I got to make my own cowgirl hat, which is very fun. But I reach for these all the time, and I'm always using them. I travel with them, and they stood the test of time. So that's where the hat wall came from, and it just fits on this wall. So this is where I house all of my samples. That's the hardest part about a designer who works from home, is there's so many pieces that I gravitate towards. And then I'm always changing out to give clients the best options, but this is kind of where my favorites have landed. So this is something I always start here when we start working on a project, and then I'll gravitate towards other things. We'll pull in other pieces of inspiration, and whether it's tile or marble, but this is kind of where I start when any project is started, is with what I have and what I love. I also do something really funny with fabrics. My favorite fabrics stay on the wall until I can use them. They live here. This is my next one that I'm really trying to use, and I think I will end up using it. But it's just kind of something that every time a project gets started, as soon as we go through kind of what the client wants, I'll say, oh, I know exactly what fabric we can use in here. And that's kind of where I say my favorites live up on these walls. I have 2 areas where I kind of have my favorites, and that's what I gravitate to. But then this is where all of everything is housed, and it's mostly me who reaches in here, which is why it's clean and organized now. But I would say I clean up every Sunday, and by Friday afternoon, samples have spilled out throughout the house. So I'm constantly changing things up. For our designs, I think there's a couple components that we do really well. I call them our design styles, but what I like to do is layer those. So my favorite aesthetic is kind of that English cottage inspired with the Nancy Meyers aesthetic. And we layer those to kind of create something homey and cozy and textural. And I love patterns and I love color. So implementing all of that together really cohesively. But we do things too where, you know, I love the Spanish revival, and being in Southern California, you see so many beautiful Spanish style homes. So we'll kind of say, oh, we'll layer that with a Nancy Meyers aesthetic, or we can layer that with a little bit of a modern aesthetic, and all of that kind of blends. So what I really love to say about us is we have maybe 5 to 6 styles we do really well, but we layer them so it doesn't feel mass produced. One of the most special pieces in my house is actually this Louis Vuitton trunk that I found when I was in college for about $100. I don't even know if it's real, but the thing about it is I'm a big handwritten letter gal. My grandma used to write me the most beautiful letters all the time. And as we got older, my brother and I realized those weren't gonna come around as much. So I became such a handwritten card gal. And anybody who sends me a card or a letter, I keep it and it lives in here. So this is actually full, again, tying that to a memory. This actually houses things my nephews have drawn me, letters from friends and family, which I just think is really fun and special. And if you're ever having a bad day, let me tell you, I will open this up and go through it, and it's just filled with love. So this is a really special piece to me. One of the other best things about working from home in this space is the natural light and that it leads straight into the backyard. So I'm gonna take you out there now. So the backyard is what I think is the best part of the house. And being that this is my office in the summertime, I do work here all the time. This is a big part of where we host. We have 3 tables out here that I can host at. This is where we spend most of the time with friends and family. And then you can just kind of see the garden is going off right now, being springtime. So I'll show you around. So the previous owners for this house, they originally lived in Chicago and they were moving back to Chicago. So the first thing I asked was, what are you gonna do with all your exterior furniture? Because it's great. And they ended up giving it to me, which is such a dream because the space is so beautiful and so huge. But I was able to incorporate all of this. I inherited all of this with the house, which has just made hosting such a dream. This table is my favorite part. It's kind of this vintage antique piece, solid oak, so it gets protected in the winter, but it's really fun to host dinner parties out here on this table. We have the whole setup back here with the barbecue and my gardening tools. So this is kind of where all the cooking happens. We set up out here. Food is usually splayed across this, or I try my hand at gardening on this table. So it's been super functional and super fun to use, and I'm just so lucky. So I would say I'm a gardening novice, but it was always something I wanted to do. I just didn't have the space for it. So when I came here, they had done such a beautiful job with the yard that I knew I needed to keep it alive. And it was really fun to try something different. And I think there's something to be said about trying new things and seeing what doesn't work. So I actually have an herb garden I'll show you in a minute. And then I loved being able to kind of plant things I love. So I love the pops of color. I love right now the little spray roses in the front that come up to life. There's lavender, we have morning glory. I have the hydrangeas, which are coming back around too. It's been kind of fun to learn that. All of my grandparents were in the garden all the time. So one of my grandfathers had tomatoes, and it has made all of us tomato snobs. So I'm really trying hard to make sure I can do tomatoes this year because it didn't work for me last year. And then my grandmother, June, had such beautiful hydrangeas and roses. And so that's something that's kind of been fun and kind of a, again, a memory that I get to kind of bring to life and watch it happen. And then anything that doesn't work, I'm like, okay, why? What did I do wrong and what do I do next time? So it's kind of been this learn as you go sort of thing. But this year is kind of fun because so much of it survived and I'm so proud and so excited. But any Saturday afternoon, I'm usually out back here making sure everything is taken care of. These are my tomatoes that are starting to come in. These are black beauties and I'm so excited to see them popping up. And then this is my herb garden, which is starting to really take off. It has been so much fun to just come back here and grab things from the garden as I cook and as I host, and again, try my hand at different things. So we have a ton of stuff back here. My zucchini was doing really well, and then I think I was overzealous and it's not doing so great right now. But I come back here, I'm doing fresh salads every day for lunch. And again, kind of going on what works and what doesn't. I realized last week that the crows were eating all of my dill, which I put in my salads every day, and I was so upset. So now I have this little algae to scare them off, and it has worked. And the dill is starting to slowly grow back. So it's all about trial and error with this. So we're about 2.5 blocks away from the ocean, which is another dream in and of itself. So right now we have kind of this May gray, June gloom, where everything's really gray. This was a really great year for rain, so everything is thriving. But that's kind of what helps everything grow. Where I used to live, everything was in like a raised garden bed, but it would get beat by summer heat. And so because we're by the water and you get that ocean breeze, it's been really fun and a lot easier to keep things alive. The other thing, I have this lemon tree which is taking off, which I love to be able to grab lemons from for everything. And then the roses are really starting to bloom. I love just all of the colors. I think sometimes people around this area really just want one color for aesthetics, and I just love all the color infused in different areas. And then the best part is this orange tree, which really produced this year. And we have the last bits of it right now, but that's where I make the fresh orange juice every morning. It's from these oranges, and I do orange olive oil cakes all the time for family and friends. So this is kind of the guest bathroom, but the previous owners did such a great job. I'll show you this little feature for storage that we've actually incorporated into 2 different projects. But they put these little medicine cabinets on the back of the door, and it's so smart for storage purposes that we're using that for our own projects. These are not original. The bathroom has been a little bit redone. I have my own idea of how I want to redo it one day, but what I loved is just how classic it is. This looks like an old, everybody thinks it's the original flooring. It's not, but it looks like it is. And I think that's what I want for this house, is for everything to feel organic and feel like it's part of the old house. And now I'm going to take you into my bedroom. So this room obviously reflects a lot of the green from outside, which is such a dream. Having those windows, again, the open windows, I get to hear the birds. I actually wanted a water feature for the front of this, but my neighbors have one, so I get to listen to their water feature for free, and it's so wonderful. But I wanted a kind of calm space in here, and so I incorporated little pops of green, the stripes, kind of this floral. This was a chair that was already here. I just had it recovered kind of so it felt more me. I mean, it's so peaceful when you're here and you get to look out to this. It's a dream come true. This was actually my aunt's dresser, and I love how it fits this space so perfectly. When I got it, I didn't actually have space for it at the time, and I held on to it because I knew it was just so beautiful. And so I'm so lucky that I get to use this and have something pretty to look at all the time. This is another pressed floral that I found in France. I bought this with every intent to sell it to a client and ultimately couldn't part with it. Still cannot commit to hanging it on a wall. I don't know if I want it to live here or if I want it to live above the bed. I move it around a little bit as everything, but I just love how patinaed it looks and weathered, and I just love it. So one of the things, especially in this house, but I always kind of want to reflect in projects, is bringing the outside in. I'm very intentional with that in designs for my clients, and especially for myself in this room. Because there's so much greenery outside, because there's so many florals, I wanted that to feel the same in here without feeling like I was outside, or without feeling like it was competing with the outside. So I brought in this beautiful fabric and kind of incorporated that in. It reflects all of the greens outside. There's so many variants of green outside that I love that I get to bring it in a little bit. And then I was due for some new bedding and found this piece at a local shop and absolutely love how it turned out. Of course, I have to add a pop of yellow to everything, so that's where this came in. But again, I kind of think that mesh of pattern and that mesh of the mix of florals kind of with that easy linen, kind of makes that like easygoing, kind of like that California feel meets an English cottage. It all feels very layered and just kind of cute and quintessential cottagey. As I mentioned, I just got back from England. A friend of mine and I hosted a retreat out there, and one of the things we got to do was host a workshop with Tess Newell, who I've been a long time fan of, so it was a dream come true, and we actually painted these lampshades with her. So I just got mine a couple of days ago, and I'm so excited about it. I think it pulls in the greens and yellows with a pop of pink perfectly, and it's just kind of, again, tied to a memory, something custom, something that I got to do, and it just kind of, it feels unique, and it's one of my favorite pieces in the house, but I'm gonna say that about everything. So when I moved into this house and I eventually painted it, I was really intentional on the paint color. So I wanted kind of a warmer white with that contrasting trim, because we don't have casings like this anymore. And this is the original hardware and the hinges as well. So I really wanted it to pop. Everything was all white in here, which looked beautiful, but I wanted it to kind of feel a little bit more elevated. And so I chose this kind of bone color, which has a green undertone, which is reflective of the green outside. But now everything gets to pop, and I get more compliments, and people notice the hardware more than they did before. So this is the front porch, which is darling. I also like to call it Riptide's territory, because he cries every night about 5:30 to come out and just watch the world go by, which is kind of a great reminder to stop and slow down, and I'll sit out here and I'll work a little bit, but you get to watch the world go by from the front door. So the house was originally kind of this pale yellow color, which is my favorite color, but I wanted it to feel a little bit more elevated. So I found this beautiful creamy white that would pop against the greenery. Again, there's so much green here. I wanted it to stand out, and then I brought in kind of a muddied down green for the trim, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. And then I kind of added different brass features, different places. So these were kind of the first thing I knew I wanted when I painted everything. They're also from England, and I just think they fit this space super well. And then the other thing that is really fun is this mailbox feature was actually part of the house, but it was just like kind of an open slot. And I found this lettere sign in Rome, and I bought it, and it literally fits perfectly. So I had that installed, and nobody actually gives me mail through this anymore, but I love that it's here, and it just kind of pops against the colors. So we come out here, I think again in the summertime, everything is so much more fun, and I love being outdoors. So I'm out here all the time with friends. We'll do a glass of wine out here and just kind of sit, and the sun sets really beautifully here, and it's so cozy and warm. The swing is also a huge feature. People love to sit on that. We don't have enough swings outside, so that's been a really fun feature. So I actually had the house painted a couple of months ago at the end of summer. I did James White by Farrow & Ball on the exterior of the home, and then Embassy Green by Benjamin Moore on the trim of the house. And what's really fun is this was not a custom door, but the green matches perfectly for this screen, which is really great for all of the bugs that I don't want to get into my house. I wish you guys could smell what this place looks or smells like right now, because everything is so fragrant. The jasmine is coming in right here. I have hydrangeas that are starting to pop up, they just look so great. Normally, this is my favorite rose bush. It has these the most fragrant yellow roses, which is kind of what we brought into the dining room as that inspiration. They're just budding right now, but everything smells so good out here, and it's the best part of this time of year. I think a home should be reflective of the people who live in it, and a collection of things that they love, and again, a memory. I think we want a collection of memories so we feel something, and we're not just coming home to something that's perfectly styled and void of any character. That's something that I feel so much in my home, and that I really try to encourage our clients to do in their own homes. This is a home full of hosting, so full of friends, full of family, full of people who can just come and show up and sit on your couch in their sweatpants, or people you're hosting dinner parties with. I think it's just something, you want it to be this happy space, and that's something I've really tried to encapsulate in this house.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Avery. Welcome to my Santa Monica Beach bungalow. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi, I'm Avery Burridge. I'm a content creator and we are in my Santa Monica bungalow. My fiance and I were looking to move in together for the first time, so I was looking on Zillow for Santa Monica apartments and this one popped up. I came to view it and then within 24 hours we had the apartment. We've now been here for about 2 years and we plan to be here until someone kicks us out, I think. What really drew me to this apartment, which is interesting because it's not really my favorite part, but was the kitchen that you'll see in a little bit, because it honestly reminded me of my best friend from home's kitchen where she grew up. So it felt super homey. And then on top of it, there's a ton of great natural light in here. You'll see like the floor to ceiling windows in the living room. So I saw just like a ton of potential to make it my own, essentially. My vision for this apartment was taking some of the pieces I already owned, like this couch, my coffee table, and just adding to it. It was really just a blank canvas. Some of the renovations that I did that were renter friendly were, I did have my landlord paint the walls, which is a good hack, is usually if you ask, they can paint them. They weren't white, they were kind of like a gross yellow before. And then you'll also see like we ditched some of like the really ugly curtains and we put in our own curtains. A few other things you'll see across the room are like peel and stick wallpaper. We also changed out some ugly lighting that you'll see in the back as well and put our own chandelier in. So I was able to make some tweaks that were renter friendly, like I said, to make it kind of my own. So welcome to the entryway / dining room. You'll see this room is really an open concept, which is one of the things I loved about it. So when you first walk in, I just wanted something as like a little bit of a showstopper. So I have this really cute CB2 little like table that fit perfectly in this space. And also from CB2, which I love, this is where we put our dog, all of our dog stuff. So like his toys, his leash, and it's kind of fun because it's a little hidden thing. I think it's actually made for like a kid's room, but for us it's made for a dog. I wanted to be like a little chicer than having his toys everywhere. And then to kind of add to the California vibe, we have this like very Venice looking book, which I thought would just like kind of kickstart the vibe of our whole home. And then this mirror, honestly, this is where I go before I leave the house, have a little check with my lip gloss, my makeup, and it gives everyone a chance to just get a little check on what they look like. So moving over, you'll see this is our dining room area. Again, very open. This is where we do all of our entertaining. We'll eat here and we'll usually start actually like with drinks and stuff in the living room, which you'll see in a little bit. But as you may be able to tell, my favorite color is blue. I didn't want to go blue overload in this whole apartment. So this tablescape gave me an opportunity to do that color here and not feel like it's the whole apartment. So this tablecloth I love, it's actually from Nikki Kehoe over in California here in Los Angeles. And I did a little play of like that beachy vibe, some old and new. So I love, again, blue and natural colors. These are really great Addison Roth candlesticks. I actually added them to my registry, so a little pro tip for brides, like loved that. And then I mentioned I like a little mix of the old and new. So what I did here is these are all antique vases and ginger jars, and it's actually from a local spot where I'm from in Chicago called Yankee Peddler Hinsdale. So definitely recommend. She has such a great curation there, and I always go home and crack up. My fiance's like, here she comes again with like another bag of antiques. So love these. And then when setting the table, I always want to make it feel a little more interesting. You know, like as we're getting older, I want it to feel more formal, but sometimes you don't always have the budget to have the nice china. So this is a great napkin from Hudson Grace, again, adding to the blue theme, but to kind of go from like budget to old to like more expensive. These are Stone Lane, actually, from Bed Bath & Beyond. And then beneath them, which I love, these are from my mom, who's also an interior designer. So she gifted me these. These are my favorite plates growing up, so I feel so honored to have them in my home now. And then again, kind of below it is another Stone Lane plate. Jenny Kane Home placemat to kind of go into the beachy vibe. And then this is one of my favorite hacks for renters, people on a budget. If you love the Sabre Paris silverware, these are actually from Target. They're a little more interesting than your typical stainless steel. So this was one of my favorite finds that I had here. And this is kind of like what I would set the table like if we were entertaining, just to kind of like set the scene. We're adults now and have a fun little party vibe. Along with this room, we did some like renter-friendly hacks in here as well. So you'll see this is actually something we brought in. So the light, of course, wasn't centered in this rental. So we actually did a little hook here and made the light centered of the room. And then as you can see behind here, we've also added our own curtains. This is a great find from Crate & Barrel. People are always asking like, where are your curtains from? And we got these on like mega sale. I wanna say they were like $11 to $20. So this was a great find. These were some vertical blinds before and they were such an eyesore. So like I love that these still bring in the light, but add a little privacy as well. And then right before we enter the kitchen, this is kind of like our personal touch. So these are actually matchbooks of my fiance and I's favorite spots. So like this is a restaurant and diner in Santa Monica we always used to go to. This is where we spend a lot of time in Dana Point. And then some of our other favorite restaurants, and you'll see it actually includes the date that he asked me to be his girlfriend and then the time we came official, which is funny. So this is one of actually the first gifts that I ever gave him, which I love. So that's front and center in our living room, dining room area. And then the chairs here, you'll find like different variations of these. So I honestly had these 4 chairs in my last apartment when it was just myself. So these are something I brought over. You can find like great looks for less of these on Amazon. And then these end chairs I felt that we needed so we can always have 2 couples instead of just one other couple in our house. And they're kind of like, again, a Jenny Kane look for less. These are essentials for living. And they're such a great find, really easy to clean, which I love because people's hands get it all dirty. But this is a way where instead of spending $700 a chair, they're like $200 each, which was a really great steal. But I love how they're kind of just end chairs that add a little more than just these 4 chairs to the dining room. Having this open floor concept, one thing I do love is if I am cooking when having friends over, sometimes I'll do takeout and pretend I cooked. But I love the open kitchen concept where it kind of feels like a kitchen island. I'll usually set up like drinks or an ice bucket here and then be cooking in this section as well. And this just allows me to be part of the conversation, which I love, instead of feeling like you're just in the kitchen by yourself when you're hosting. So this is a big selling point for me for the house too, is it's roomy to cook and entertain, but you're also still part of the whole floor plan as well. How I started in this was honestly, I was able to live alone for the first time, which I felt very fortunate about. And I absolutely loved that apartment. And it was my first time where I didn't have roommates where I thought they were gonna like ruin some of my things that I brought in. You weren't like splitting the cost of furniture or just like taking whatever you could because it's what you could afford at the time. So once I had my own space, I was able to decorate it the way I wanted because I knew hopefully no one else was ruining it, even if they came over. And I honestly started posting that apartment onto TikTok. And from there, like people started asking me questions, asking me where things were from. So I kind of just continued from there, posting that apartment, outfits of the day, my general lifestyle in California, and it's gotten to here where I am today. I would say my personal style is very California chic with a little bit of like old and new combined. As we go through the house, I think you'll see like that very beachy chic vibe, I guess we can call it, along with some like very curated antique pieces. A lot of my style is influenced by my mom, who's an interior designer. So I grew up around antiques, the love of art, but also having a love for decorating the home. So I think we could call it like California beach chic with a little old and new. My favorite room, which I think most people would agree with, is probably our living room. The light that comes through on a sunny day just like makes it feel so warm in here. And I love the tones of the entire room as well. This is where we spend most of our time. We don't have a TV in our bedroom, for example, so this is where we watch our favorite shows. This is where we entertain. So I'd say definitely our living room. So now you've seen the entryway and our dining area. So I'm gonna take you over to kind of the showstopper of the apartment is the living room. So I know we mentioned I do the entertaining over there, but we really start kind of drinks and entertaining in this room. How I thought about this room is, one, it's such a great open space, so we were able to have a lot of seating, which I feel very fortunate about. A few things I wanted to kind of point out is I actually already owned one of these living spaces couches. They're super comfortable in my last apartment. And I was able to find the exact one on Facebook Marketplace for much less than a brand new one. So that was something where I could easily match a couch that I already had. And then things that I already had in my last apartment too that were just a natural fit in here was this coffee table from Crate & Barrel. I loved the natural wood, kind of for that like beachy chic vibe again. And then again, this is more of like that mix of old and new, I would say. So obsessed with candles everywhere. This is one of my favorite scents by Voyage at Sea. I probably said that wrong, but it's a great scent. It's actually the Los Angeles scent, which I love because that's where we're located. I love mixing in different metals as well right now. So love this silver tray from Williams-Sonoma. And then these two candlesticks are actually from Amber Interiors, who's also here in California. And I'm obsessed with hydrangeas. I try not to go hydrangea overload every week or two when I do new flowers. But these, I love that they pull in the colors of the room. And I'll probably be including these in my wedding, which is kind of fun to have them in my house at all times as well. One of the things that I think people love the most is this piece of art, as well as these shell sconces. So a little bit about the shell sconces. These are actually meant to be hardwired as if they're really a real light, but I can't do that because I'm a renter. So I actually just had these mounted. And then what you'll see here is I got Amazon lights in here, and just to like turn them on via remote, it adds the illusion that they're in the wall, but they can light up. And they're one of my favorite things. When I was kind of looking to decorate my apartment, I saw these and I was like, I'm gonna find an apartment where I can put these somewhere in my house and it's gonna be like a part of the room. So that's what I did here. And then this art piece is actually a Slim Aaron's art piece. I got it, it's a print. It's from Fine Art America. And it's actually surfers based in Laguna Beach. So my fiance, he's from Newport Beach. We spend a lot of time in Orange County in general. So this was a natural fit for this room because it's a place that means a little something to us and also goes with that like beachy vibe that we were going for. Looking at the couch, again, I mentioned that I didn't want to go blue crazy. So I tried to add different textures and elements into this part of the room. So you'll see there's a more mix of like beige, brown, green, and blue. These great pillowcases I actually got from Etsy. It's a great kind of hack I have. Like if you're looking to like switch out pillowcases, like Etsy's a great place to start when you're just looking for something a little different, not sold in the stores per se. And then they match perfectly with this light blue. So still bringing in the light blue. This is a Crate & Barrel pillow as well. So I kind of just did whatever you see on this couch, you'll see exactly on the couch facing it. Because the key to comfort is making sure you have comfy pillows from when, one, you're entertaining, but two, we both spend a lot of time on these couches watching our favorite show. One thing I think is funny, like this is my couch and that couch over there is my fiance's couch. And we just sit on our couches and like watch whatever we love. So it's kind of funny that we have our own little couches. Moving over here, so sometimes the TV is quite an eyesore, so I try to make it still fun below, despite that it's just like a big black screen on our wall. So I wanted to add some natural elements with still bringing in that like rattan beachy feel. So this is a great little fern here. And then again, mixing some little bit of old. These two bookends are again from that Yankee Peddler store where I grew up, antique as well, along with this little blue dog. Our puppy used to like bark at him all the time thinking he was a real dog, which is really funny. And then some personal touches of like Nick and I on one of our first like trips, big trips together, and then bringing in those metals again and more lighting here with this little lamp from Williams-Sonoma as well. Another thing that people always ask me about, which I think is so funny, is everyone's like, where did you get these pillows that are underneath your coffee table? And it's actually funny, it came with the living spaces couches as like kind of ends to it, but we just put it here to like, let's say Nick and I are being lazy and we want to eat our meals here at the table, like I'll just sit on one of these poofs. Or now it's become essentially a dog bed for our puppy, which is really nice. So they're really just part of this couch that comes with it, but I didn't want to use it. And then this rug was something before I moved into this house, like I knew I was gonna put this rug in our house. It's from Rush House. And what's really unique about it is each of these squares are like hand woven. So let's say one kind of becomes a little undone or gets messed up, you can actually just buy a square and weave it in yourself. So the rug kind of always feels new if you need to, and it's super easy to do so. So that's one thing I liked. I didn't want it to feel like something that would get super dirty if people wear shoes. And then we have a dog as well, so kind of hides a lot of dirt, I will say. So these two chairs, again, we love to entertain and have friends over. I had one of these chairs in my last apartment, which was great. And lucky for me, Crate & Barrel then again had this chair still in stock. So I just bought this chair, like the second one of it, so we could match. This little table is for like when people are coming over and they want to set their drink down or something, they can do so right here. And I felt like it matched perfectly with the whole look of the room. And then this bar cart, I love. It's been with me since I graduated college. It came from Chicago all the way over to California. So any of my previous roommates would recognize this bar cart because it was like one of my first more expensive purchases. It's from Serena and Lily. It's right now, of course, it's on display of like when we're not entertaining it, just like to look cute. But this is where we come over. We'll grab our champagne to put on ice. This is where we'll get the fancy glasses out for our guests. And I love that. And I also included a little ode to my home of Chicago with these Chicago coasters, Wrigley Field, Go Cubs. I'm a Cubs fan, not a Sox fan. So anyone else there might relate to that. Last but not least is this beautiful plant. So it was super happy in this house. It grew like probably another foot after we moved in here. But this was gifted from my mom, actually, and it was something, thankfully, I've been able to keep alive for at least 2.5 years. I was a little nervous, but the natural sun that comes into this living room, I think, makes that plant and us super happy. And then one thing I'll also point out, similar to our dining room, we put the same curtains over here. So we had the really ugly vertical curtains that you might have seen like in one of your previous apartments or apartments in general. We got these again on mega sale at Crate & Barrel. Just had a TaskRabbit put this rod in for us. And it changed the room, honestly, and made it look much more fancy than it is. And it still gives you that privacy at night, which of course we need because these are huge windows and the other building can always look in very easily. So what has really inspired me to be interested in making a home and decorating is definitely my mom. She is an interior designer, so she really taught me and probably my siblings everything we know about making a home feel like I said, a home. So I'd say she's definitely been my inspiration in this apartment as well as like my love for decorating in general. I love entertaining. I honestly wish we did more, but we do entertain a lot. We like to have either dinner parties or we will do game nights as well with my fiance and another couple. And it was important for me to be a space where both me and my fiance love to come to, but it's something that I was proud to bring friends over to as well, where they could feel cozy and at home while we're like eating takeout or cooking them a nice dinner. Within the living room, we also have my office, because again, super open concept. This desk has been with me for quite some time too. It's actually CB2. Very cute, Serena and Lily. We don't have a ton of lighting naturally in this house during nighttime, so like having lamps around for that like soft lighting is really important. This right here is one of the most beloved gifts that I got from my mom, actually. She gifted each of my siblings one of these pieces by Grace Weaver, so this is her actual original art. This was given to me as a child. I definitely love Capri Suns. I'd make them into the phone as everyone would do. I was born in the 90s, so not everyone might not relate to that, but this had to be as like a showstopper in the room too, because that was one of the best gifts I've ever received. This is a great chair from Lulu in Georgia that I actually got recently. I thought it really tied into the pillows and the colors of our living room really well. And then another kind of old mix here is like a little antique vase, my favorite calendar from Karen Adams. And to make the desk not feel super white, this is honestly just an Amazon little pad. So this is my working space where I do all the magic happens, I guess you can say. I think what gives a house or a home a soul is the people and the memories that you fill it with. And that can be who you have over as your friends. It could be who you're sharing the house with. So for this example, it's my fiance. And then we, as you'll see, of course, as we tour the house, we're collecting things of memories. So photos from our first trips across the world, art that has been passed down from my family. So I think a lot of it just holds some of the best memories as well. So I'm going to take you into our bedroom, but before we get there, I want to show you some great renter-friendly hacks that I think is really important for everyone to know about. So the first one being is this is actually covering a very heinous light that there's nothing I can do about. So this is a great little hack that I found out, and it's from Tulip Shades, and it's renter friendly. They're up there with little command strips, and you just pop it up and it covers it and makes it feel way more chic and like elevated than whatever light is underneath there. So that's one hack that I have for you all. And then the next hack that I think everyone should know about, if they don't already, is peel and stick wallpaper. So typically when renting, the bathrooms usually aren't super cute. So one way I wanted to make it, again, super beachy and just feel a little more chic is this is Serena and Lily's peel and stick wallpaper. So my fiance and I actually installed this ourselves. I don't know if I'd recommend. It was definitely a tough day for us when we were doing this. And then this is another beloved original art that I was gifted for my birthday. It's by Sarah Baba. She's a photographer. And this is something I love. It was kind of hard to find a place for it, to be honest, but above the bathroom, it looks so great. And then the only other hack in making a bathroom look a little cuter is just like put above the toilet like a nice candle. We have some of our favorite matchbooks from our travels, and it just adds a little element to the bathroom that I think is just really nice. Before entering our bedroom, you'll see we have some little art decorations. So that's another thing, is I love putting all of our art hung across our apartment. The first one, this is again gifted actually by my parents. They traveled to Cuba together and they brought home each of us one of these tiles, which is super cool. And then this was gifted by my mom. She had went to Italy and brought this back for Christmas, which I thought these went really nice together. And then I'll only point this out because this is one of the few things that my fiance was actually able to keep to hang in the house, and he went to Chapel Hill in North Carolina. So I did allow him to hang the bell tower in our apartment. Coming into our, I guess, primary bedroom, you'll see very bright during the day. I wanted to kind of feel like a cloud in here, so that's what I definitely accomplished with our bedroom. I'll start by pointing out I have another tulip shade in here. It's again one of my favorite hacks. We're covering up a really ugly light, and I think it just takes away and like goes in the room very nicely. The bed is definitely the main part of the room. So this is my favorite cloud duvet by Parachute Home. We mixed it in with a cloud blanket actually. This is from Boll & Branch. So I have quite a mixture of different beddings. So I've tested it all out. And then these two pillows are from Crate & Barrel. I love having just like a big pillow to make the bed look super fluffy. And then I always pair our beds with Euro shams, and then we have two pillows behind it. But again, I wanted to still bring in the blue of here, but I think adding just like the natural and lightness into the bed to make it again feel like a little piece of heaven was super important to me. The bed frame is by Restoration Hardware. So this was one of our bigger investments, I would say, as a couple, but we upgraded to a king bed when we moved in here, and it was definitely one of the best decisions we ever made. So I cannot recommend that enough. This also, I think, is one of my favorite areas of the house. So we have both sides have these nightstands by Crate & Barrel as well. And then I also saw these two kind of lampshades here from Serena and Lily before I came into the house. So that was something I always wanted to bring in this apartment. They are not hardwired, which is super nice. They actually just plug into the wall, so super renter friendly as well. Had a TaskRabbit hang those up, which was really easy and nice. And this is my side. I don't know if you can tell, but I always like to have fresh flowers. This is actually original art, again, from a friend's store back at home in Chicago. And I always have like a little candle to set the mood. Sometimes I like to do turn down service, like a hotel in our bedroom, and I'll light the candle and take down the bed. But this is my little side. And moving across the room, we have my dresser and kind of like little area, I'd say, to add some more elements here. This dresser's also been with me forever. I've had it since I lived in Chicago. This is from CB2 as well. This is a great natural kind of like beachy vibe as well to go with the lampshades by our bed. This is from Mark and Day. And then this actually is one of our newest pieces. I went to an estate sale. It was Annie Myers, Nancy Myers' daughter's estate sale actually. And I couldn't believe that this starburst mirror was actually here. So it's completely vintage. You'll see like It's actually missing a little piece, but I think it adds so much character. Another example of kind of mixing that old and new in here, which I really loved. And then this is just like a little vanity area I have for myself. So this is kind of like my room, but we sleep here, of course, together. So this is Nick's side. We wanted to make it feel still like not super girly, so he has stuff relating to skiing, which he loves. And then one thing I didn't point out in Crate and Barrel side tables were they have actually chargers in here, which I love because it hides chargers from being out in the room. So it takes away from like having to have wires out, which I really loved as well. One of my favorite design tips is, mostly because apartments don't really have recessed lighting, is adding in lights where you can. So we did it with our sconces here. We did it with a little light on my dresser here. So I think just adding little lamps to have that soft lighting at night is one of my favorite tips. Home means to me is every time we travel, anytime we're going to weddings, trips, in the end, at the end of each of those trips, I can't wait to come back here. And I think that's what makes it a home. I look forward to getting into those clean sheets that we leave the house in, coming onto this couch as well. So I think it's just a place that you always want to come back to. Thanks so much for coming, Homeworthy, but I gotta go. It's too nice of a Saturday to be sitting inside all day. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.